If I could only think of how to cut you away, I wouldn't be so frightened or scared to be enlightened. It's kind of difficult to keep my mind on a day that I didn't really mind it. It's in my face, I'll find it. The fields of colors bleeding and it's so far from home. The thoughts keep coming forward, I wish I wasn't so bored. Does it really matter if I'm dying alone? I often try to fake it, what's in my face I'll take it. I'm trying not to break it, the timing it was so right. The heaviness is so light, no more or less is coming. The substance stand for something, you keep speaking easy, you really do believe me. Please tell me where you're going. I hope my fear is showing, 'cause I'll never ever see you again. If I could have the heart to take a knife to my skin, I'd carve your name for comfort, a feeling there of some sort. It's been a small eternity tormenting within, so hard to keep it inside. My mouth waits for the surprise, staring out my window at a bird on the line. I wish I
I am the devil. I am the Lord Satan from the netherworld, ruler of the damned and eternal king of hell. Even I, the master of deceit, can only stomach so much bullshit from the mainstream media and indie grifters. That's why I tune in to Morning Extra with Uncle Warren, because he eliminates my competition, and also because I know I'm gonna see that motherfucker soon.
Deo, Deo.
Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that naked all go down. Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shit all go down. Corrosion to her thighs, erosion of her pride. Baby's got a shooter, baby's got corrosion now, baby's got it.
Whoa, I knew it. Too much headroom makes me look like I'm in the basement. Hey! I'm an old TV guy. You got to make sure the enough headroom there. See? The law of thirds. Come on, everybody. Can you hear me? Do you want to hear me? Do you even care? Is this thing working? Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, January 8th, 2025. And yeah, this year is quickly flying by already. It's already starting to zoopity zoop 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 right out the door. That means fuckery is afoot as always. Shout outs to all the peeps, you lurkers. You know who you are. Miguel's in the house. What's up, man? Good to see you. Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show. Good to see you, my friend. Stephanie's here. Booyah! Boo! Emphasis on boo. Yeah. To you, Stephanie. Who else we got up in this mug? Willie Bragg's up in here. Willie Bragg floating his blue sky address there. Come on, Willie. You know, don't punch down. I know you're one of the elites now. So no show tonight, Bragg? Is that what you said? You said that the other day on your last show, I think. We got Angie Moon coming on later for ExtraBulla Live at 7 p.m. Eastern. More about that later. That'd be fun. That's going to be fun stuff. Max is here. Max RJ. And Around the World with D and Friends. Hello, D. Good to see you, D. D popping her head in early and saying hi. And Game.Film too as well. So good morning, everybody. We have some news to get to, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Of course, we want to remind you about our buddy Chanda, who is dealing with lung cancer and needs all the help financially we can give her. Thoughts and prayers are nice, but some cash will help with the medical bills. As we all know, they're pretty fucking pricey. So her GoFundMe address is down below. If you can't donate any cash, if you could share out the link to people who might have cash that can help out with that would be cool too. So we like our buddy Chanda. She's really cool, even if she wasn't going through this. Still, you know, we gotta help each other out. We ain't none of us millionaires, or maybe some of us are secret millionaires and aren't telling anybody. So like some Dollar Tree Batmans up in here. Batmans. Or, yeah, I don't know of any rich women superheroes, you know, who are rich, like, I guess Catwoman. Nah, she's just like crazy cat lady during the day, right? And then at night, she's like, Freakazoid, woo, meow. I don't know. I don't know anything about the Catwoman lore. So super fans out there, don't hate me, because I'm just an old, ignorant white guy, and I will use that excuse for as long as it's useful. Yeah. All right. So, wait a minute. What's going on over here? All right. Time rescheduling, transitioning in the next week or two. Okay, Willie. So no show tonight. Okay. All right, my man. We like to keep people informed, you know, of the Willie Bragg universe and the fans of the Willie Bragg show. You know, they want to make sure that they you know, they're gonna get you on time. So, and I like to help. I'm a big fan of time. Speaking of time, I'm wasting it by rambling, so we should probably get to the news. Of course, I saw y'all talking about this in the chat. Thousands evacuate as winds drive wildfires into California's Los Angeles. Now it's getting serious once it gets into the cities. They're like, oh, well, that was a you problem a little while ago. Now it's a me problem if you're in Los Angeles. Tens of thousands of people have been forced to flee parts of LA as strong winds drove the rapid growth of wildfires around the western United States city. Yeah, so Santa Ana winds, they are no joke. They're like little mini, they're not powerful enough to be tornadoes. I mean, they could be, but they're just enough to just like, whoa, what the hell? You know, and you know, and it'll definitely fuck around with some fire and spread it around. More than 30,000 people were evacuated yesterday as high winds helped a brush fire surge into the coastal Pacific Palisades neighborhood. Further blazes later saw other areas around Southern California come under threat. Frightened residents abandoned their cars on one of the only roads in and out of the upscale Pacific Palisades area, fleeing on foot with the almost 3,000-acre blaze engulfing an area packed with multi-million-dollar homes in the Santa Monica Mountains. So, so Santa Monica here, Palisades, right? Yeah, that's a lot of homeless people there too. In Santa Monica too, down on the beach, mostly. But these fires, I think, are up here in the hills. This is them dumping water on the fire here in LA. This is a church in LA too, so it's all up in it. Firefighters used bulldozers to push dozens of vehicles to one side, leaving many crumpled with their alarms blaring to make way for emergency vehicles. Los Angeles Fire Department Chief Kristen Cowley said despite the chaotic evacuation, there were no immediate reports of deaths. A fire official told station KTLA that several people were injured, some with burns to faces and hands. One female firefighter reportedly sustained a head injury. What's up, Fred? Still waiting for my crumb cake. Man, you're going to keep waiting. You should become a waiter at a restaurant because you're going to be doing a lot of waiting right now and you should get paid for it. Hundreds of firefighters swarmed the area, attacking the blaze from the ground and the air while crews worked through steep terrain to cut back vegetation and create fire breaks. We're not out of danger, said Los Angeles County Fire Chief Anthony Marone, speaking at an afternoon media conference. A second blaze broke out some 30 miles inland near Pasadena and doubled in size to 400 acres in a few hours, according to CAL FIRE. Almost 100 elderly residents from a nursing home were evacuated in the city, according to CBS News. Videos and photos showed elderly residents, many in wheelchairs and on gurneys, crowded onto a smoky and windswept parking lot as fire trucks and ambulances attended. Fire officials said a third blaze had prompted evacuation orders in the San Fernando Valley, northwest of L.A. California Governor Gavin Newsom said President Joe Biden has approved federal aid to help firefighters respond. Whether that aid actually gets to the firefighters, that's a totally different story. Once it gets to LA, people start taking that shit seriously. So
poured out of the Pacific Palisades as flames and smoke billowed above the Los Angeles neighborhood.
Yeah.
With the roads clogged with traffic, some people chose to walk away from the fire.
Fires were this close to the cars. People left their cars on Palisades Drive, burning up the hillside, the palm trees, everything's going. And the wind and the firemen are great, but you can only do so much.
Crews were battling smaller fires in the area throughout Tuesday, trying to...
So that's another thing. Once the fire gets into LA, when you get people trying to evacuate, it's one thing evacuating some of the more rural areas around Los Angeles, but once you get into LA proper, well, then you're talking about a lot more complications with the traffic.
Get them under control before they were whipped up by the powerful winds.
We saw some literally flaming debris landed in the road. So it seemed to be, let's get out of here. Whatever I lose, and there's nothing I can do about it.
The flames dotted the hillside, coming dangerously close to some homes, completely engulfing others.
It's just so sad. And I feel for everyone that's lost property and fires. I've never been this close to it.
California's governor pleaded with those still at home to heed the calls to leave.
Many structures already destroyed, and the fact that people were still not evacuated is a reminder of how serious this moment is and how important it is you listen to these evacuation orders.
Yeah, like I said, when you're out, like in, I think the last big fire that they had recently was, what was it? It wasn't Santa Monica. It was right just north of Santa Monica. Still kind of a pain in the ass to evacuate, but it's a lot looser area with a lot less houses. Here, you got more compact, and you see here, yeah, it's going to be tough to get out.
We've all been to memorials. I've never been to a memorial for a building.
The National Weather Service issued its highest alert even before the blaze began, warning of extreme fire conditions in much of LA County. Officials are bracing for wind gusts that could reach 160 kilometers an hour, continuing to fan the flames. Riley Carlson, Al Jazeera.
Yeah, like I said, those Santa Ana winds are no joke, too. Because even in LA proper, when I lived in Glendale, which is right there to the north of the downtown, the winds would be just come whipping out of the hills and the mountains there, and it's just like, ooh, it kind of knock you on your tuchus if you didn't know what was up. So, and so all our LA peeps out there, I hope everything is safe for you guys out there. I know our buddy Marcus from Political Matrix is out there. Who else? I know I have several friends out there that I used to work with out there who are dealing with this too. But this is probably not their first rodeo. They know what to do to get the hell out of Dodge, because they've heard it enough over the years with all the different fires that's ravaged the area there. What's up, Kate? Good morning. I lived in Palm Springs while fires and winds were happening in the LA area, man. The whole world turns eerie and the populations leave LA and come to the desert. Yeah, they don't want to get burned up. Yeah, so I'm trying to see if there's any update to that right now. So I guess that's the latest update for the fire out there. Meanwhile, you hear about these airlines, right? Like these Boeing planes all being just trash, and everybody makes fun of Spirit Airlines. They said there's like chicken coops on the back of it, that kind of thing. And now JetBlue apparently has bodies in their wheels. Yeah. So U.S. authorities seek to identify bodies found in JetBlue wheel well. Yeah. So Happy New Year, right? Authorities in the United States have been working to identify 2 bodies discovered in the wheel well of a JetBlue plane shortly after it landed in the southern state of Florida. Of course, it was Florida. The bodies were found on Monday night during a routine post-flight inspection, according to the airline. The jet had arrived in Fort Lauderdale from the JFK International Airport in New York City. At this time, the identities of the individuals and the circumstances surrounding how they accessed the aircraft remain under investigation, JetBlue said in a statement. This is a heartbreaking situation, and we're committed to working closely with authorities to support their efforts to understand how this occurred. Paramedics declared both of the individuals dead at the scene, according to Broward County Sheriff's Office. So it said the department's homicide and crime scene units are investigating. Further details were not immediately released. It was not clear how long the bodies had been on the plane. Wheel wells have been commonly used by individuals seeking to secretly board aircraft. However, hiding in the opening where wheels are retracted after takeoff often proves deadly. Yes, we've seen this time and time again. What's up, Miguel? I meant to shout you out, too. I don't think I shouted you out a while ago. If I don't shout you out, you're always in my heart. Always. Always. Miguel. A 2011 FAA report examined 89 cases across the world of individuals stowing away in the external compartments of aircraft, such as the wheel wells. Just 18 survived, indicating an 80% fatality rate. The causes of death include being crushed by the landing gear, dying from engine heat, and falling from the plane. Individuals are also killed by the extreme cold at high altitudes and the lack of oxygen. Still, there have been some high-profile instances of people surviving such journeys in recent years, including a 16-year-old runaway who survived a 5-hour flight from California to Hawaii while hiding in a wheel well in 2014. Yeah, it would still be cold, but at least it's California to Hawaii. If you're going from, like, saying New York to Reykjavik, Iceland, I'm pretty sure you're going to be an ice cube. The incident on Monday was the second time in less than a month that a body was discovered in the wheel well of a plane in the United States. On December 24th, a body was found in the wheel well of a United Airlines plane after it landed in Maui after taking off in Chicago. It was not me. I was not that guy. The body has yet to be identified. So, I don't know what's up with these people getting up in these planes for various reasons, trying to get the hell out of Dodge is what it seems like to me, and they don't have the bread or the legal means of getting out, so they get in these wheel wells. All right. That's not recommended way to travel, folks. Just saying, and not trying to make light of the situation, but there are those who might say, Hey, that sounds like a good idea, man. You just slip up there on the wheel and just hang on, man. Hell, just wear like a coat, bring you some Funyuns shit. Man, you say it saved you about $300-400. The Funyuns are not going to do you any good at those altitudes. I'm just telling you. You might want to bring an oxygen tank. And then if you're going to go through all that, you might as well just buy a plane ticket and sit comfortably inside, because it's about the same amount. Our neighbors up to the north there, up in Canada, the Canucks up there are having a bit of a time there, but now their Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has said, I got to go. So this happened the other day as we were on the air, actually. Trudeau announces stepping down as Liberal leader after 9-year tenure. Oh, dude, there's the face. There's that smug-looking piece of shit. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced on Monday his decision to step down as leader of the ruling Liberal Party after 9 years in office. Trudeau stated he would remain in his position until the party selects a new leader with no election expected before May. So it's going to be kind of like a caretaker government kind of thing. Where have we heard that before? Shake and Bacon, what's up, buddy? Look at that. Yeah, that's right. The Canada news. You're right on time, my friend. Speaking at a press conference, Trudeau acknowledged mounting pressure from within the Liberal Party as polls predict a crushing defeat to the opposition Conservatives in the next election. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, it cannot be the best option in that election, Trudeau said. He didn't add the A. Well, he probably did. But it's just natural. Trudeau, who took office in November 2015 and secured re-election twice, has faced waning popularity over the past 2 years due to public frustration with rising costs and a housing crisis. The trucker strike, he probably didn't endear himself to the truckers that well either. Despite his achievements as one of Canada's longest-serving prime ministers, his political fortunes have steadily declined, with recent polls signaling significant losses for the Liberals regardless of leadership. To manage the political transition, Trudeau announced that Parliament would be suspended until March 24th, a move approved by Canada's Governor-General, the representative of King Charles III in the country. This delay will push the earliest potential non-confidence motion to May, allowing Trudeau to remain prime minister when U.S. President-elect Donald Trump takes office in about a couple of weeks there on the 20th. As Trump received news of Trudeau stepping down, he took to Truth Social to say, "Many people in Canada love being the 51st state. They love it. Many people are talking about it with the maple syrup and the Labatt's. The United States can no longer suffer the massive trade deficits and subsidies that Canada needs to stay afloat. Justin Trudeau knew this and resigned." I'm not doing the rest of that in his voice. If Canada merged with the U.S., there would be no tariffs. Taxes would go way down, and they would be totally secure from the threat of the Russian and Chinese ships that are constantly surrounding them together. What a great nation it would be, Trump continued. So, he wants, Trump wants to annex Canada, apparently. The Liberal Party has faced internal turmoil, including a rift with Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland, that's the lady whose grandpa's a Nazi, I can't say that enough, who resigned last month after opposing Trudeau's proposed spending measures. In a critical letter, Freeland accused Trudeau of engaging in political gimmicks instead of prioritizing the nation's welfare. Removing me from the equation as the leader who will fight the next election for the Liberal Party should also decrease the level of polarization that we're seeing right now in the House and in Canadian politics, Trudeau stated, emphasizing his intention to refocus the party's efforts. This guy. The Conservatives, led by Pierre Poilievre, are poised to capitalize on the Liberal Party's struggles. This guy, Pierre Poilievre, I swear to God, he sounds like Bill Maher, and he looks like a car salesman that turned into a game show host. Poilievre, a career politician, gained prominence in 2022 for his support of truck drivers protesting COVID-19 vaccine mandates. I think that's the same guy anyway. Trudeau's resignation also comes as Parliament's Public Accounts Committee was set to hold a meeting on January 7th to consider a no-confidence motion against Trudeau's government. John Williamson, the panel's Conservative chair, said it's now clear that the Liberal government does not have the confidence of Parliament. He has also been abandoned by his Atlantic caucus, which Trudeau's aides saw as critical to the party's chances of winning a fourth term. The Atlantic Liberals now believe it's in the PM's best interest to quit, feeling he cannot defeat Pierre a populist conservative promising change. They all warn that if Trump follows through on his pledge to impose a 25% tax on all Canadian exports on day one, the country might be thrown into chaos. I cannot emphasize enough. So Trudeau is going to still be there, but kind of like in spirit only, because there's no confidence. So you got Canada, you got Germany, you got France, and pretty much England too is in the same boat. Nobody has any confidence in these fuckers. Happy 2025. More of that coming soon. Like I said, so Trump, I think Trump has gone full on Bond villain mode at this point. He knows he's won the election. He's going to be starting up here pretty soon. And I think he's just going to go full on cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I mean, it's not, you can't say you didn't see it coming, but it is what it is. Trump won't rule out military force to seize control of the Panama Canal or Greenland. You know, like the country. Yeah, this is Common Dreams from Julia Conley. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has been rebuked in recent days by the leaders of both Panama and Denmark for his insistence that the Panama Canal and Danish territory Greenland must be under American control, and his latest comments on Tuesday were expected to garner more anger and eye-rolling from abroad. See, what Trump doesn't understand is you don't say you got to take the countries, you say, we're going to deliver democracy. And if there's already democracy there, you say, no, that's tainted democracy. We're going to bring you the good stuff. That's how you're supposed to do it. But see, now that everything's out in the open, and Trump said, yeah, we got the oil in Syria. He said, yeah, we want Panama Canal and Greenland, the whole fucking thing. At a press conference at his Florida resort, Mar-a-Lago, the Republican leader refused to rule out using military force to take over the canal and Greenland. It might be that you'll have to do something. The Panama Canal is vital to our country, said Trump. We need Greenland for national security purposes. So basically, that's his way of saying we need Greenland for reasons. Just because we want to get Greenland. He added that both the canal and Greenland, the world's largest island and a home to a U.S. military base, are needed for U.S. economic security. There's this fucking chucklehead right there. This guy's got fucking candy for brains. Whoa, where are you going? Get back up here, bitch. Under President Jimmy Carter, who died late last month, the U.S. signed a treaty returning the Panama Canal Zone to Panama in 1979, and the waterway connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans has been solely controlled by the Panamanian government since 1999. Trump repeated a false claim that the canal is being operated by China last month after the president-elect demanded that the Panama Canal be returned to the United States of America, in full, quickly, and without question. Panamanian President Jose Raul Molino posted a video to social media in response. As president, I want to clearly state that every square meter of the Panama Canal and its adjoining zone is Panama's and will remain so, Molino said. The sovereignty and independence of our country is non-negotiable. He said, yeah, it's called the Panama Canal because it's Panama's. Trump's comments came as his son Donald Trump Jr. joined right-wing activist Charlie Kirk and other Trump allies on a visit to Greenland. Apparently they thought it was just going to be this big green island and made of marijuana or some shit. The president-elect suggested a social media post that the trip was made in suggested in a social media post that the trip was made in an official capacity, writing, "The reception has been great. They and the free world need safety, security, strength, and peace. This is a deal that must happen. MAGA, make Greenland great again." So that's Mugaga. But Greenland officials clarified that Trump Jr. was visiting only as a private individual and said no representatives would be meeting with him. Trump said at his press conference that people really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to Greenland, but if they do, they should give it up because we need it for national security. This is amazing. Greenland is home to 60,000 people. There's only that many? It's like a big giant, like a even bigger Montana. And is self-ruling with its own legislature while its foreign and defense policy are controlled by Denmark. So they got their own government, but they outsourced their foreign and defense policy to Denmark. The Arctic island lies in a region where global powers are vying for military and economic control. See, that's what's going on because of all the shenanigans going up in the Arctic with Russia and China doing maneuvers up there, and the U.S. is like, what's going on up in the Arctic? Are they in league with Santa Claus? Trump also expressed a desire to purchase Greenland during his first term, a goal that was dismissed at the time as absurd by Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen. Greenland belongs to the Greenlanders, Frederiksen reiterated on Tuesday. Yeah, so, This is some cartoon shit. Danish PM says Greenland not for sale. So let's talk about this for a little bit. So John Jr. arrived in Greenland for a private visit, as Trump wants to make sure the Danish territory becomes the United States. So let's see. Hang on just a second. I am hearing that the people of Greenland are MAGA, Trump wrote. That's crazy. Greenland is an incredible place, and the people will benefit tremendously if and when it becomes part of our nation. I get to the part. So Greenland's Prime Minister Mute Egede. These names, I'm gonna chop up these names too. I'm sorry. Has called for independence from Denmark, saying the island needs to free itself from its colonial past. The island was made a colony of Denmark in 1721 and became an autonomous, dependent territory in 1953. Hence we got our own government, but we need you for help with defense. The independence movement has grown as more Danish colonial abuses against the predominantly Inuit population have come to light in recent years. However, Egede has previously ruled out Greenland becoming part of the U.S. In a statement, Greenland's government confirmed Trump Jr.'s visit would take place as a private individual. So as we said, the Prime Minister said Greenland belongs to Greenlanders. She added that the island is not for sale. So for his part, Trump Jr., speaking on a podcast Monday, also denied his visit had any political motive. No, I am not buying Greenland. Wink, wink, wink. Younger Trump said, funny enough, I'm actually going on a very long personal day trip to Greenland. Trump had previously floated buying Greenland during his first term, as we said, even postponing a 2019 visit to Denmark after Prime Minister Frederiksen rebuffed the idea. The president-elect has signaled he plans to take a similarly disruptive approach to foreign policy this time around. That includes efforts to expand the U.S. reach, even as he has espoused isolationism. In December, Trump said U.S. control of Greenland was an absolute necessity. I mean, it is pretty. Look at that. That's nice. That's just, I don't know. The colors just pop. The island is home to a large U.S. military base and is considered strategically important as geopolitical rivals like China and Russia jockey for control of the Arctic. The That month, Trump also threatened to take back control of the canal, Panama Canal. We told you about that. Yeah, so Trump's going to be doing some nutty shit once he gets in, or at least he says he is. Greenland, what is this? Greenland got a very socialized medical system. We do not need the U.S. messing that up. And Shagan Bacon over there, he's Canadian. He's one of our ambassadors. Greenland and Canada don't want to join the U.S. Nobody wants to join the U.S. Universal health care is such a major aspect of our societies. Yeah. So all the people with great social programs, they don't want anything to do with the United States because they know what the fuckery is going on there. They know it's all privatized and, yeah. U.S. people used to clamor to come to the United States because of freedom and, better lives and stuff like that. Now it's just like, why the hell are you coming to America? What are you smoking? Meanwhile, south of the border, they have their own problems as well. 10 gunmen killed, 3 police officers injured. Oh, hello. Oh, no. I guess we ain't seeing that. That is interesting. Hang on just a second. See, you use an ad blocker, and then what do? All kinds of shit happens. Is this here? Okay. That is weird. All right, give me a second here. That was like right there. Interesting. Okay, we're back. My ad blocker did something very naughty, so and it scared me. It gave me a little poopy sauce for a second, or at least I thought so. 10 gunmen killed, 3 police officers injured in shootout with security forces amid cartel turf battles in Mexico. So this lady, the new president of Mexico, Ms. Scheinbaum, she's having to deal with these cartels too, just like what's his face was before. Was it Lula? Security forces clashed with gunmen on Monday in one of Mexico's most violent states, leaving 10 suspected criminals dead and 3 police officers injured. The early morning shootout happened during a joint patrol by police and the military in the municipality of Uriria in Guanajuato, a central industrial region that is also home to warring drug cartels. The Guanajuato State Security Department initially reported that 8 gunmen had been killed, but later said 2 more bodies had been found with gunshot wounds. With this discovery, it's confirmed that there are 10 members of a criminal group neutralized. Security personnel employed a legitimate and proportional use of force during the clash, in which 3 police officers suffered non-life-threatening injuries, according to a statement. A dozen firearms were seized, along with several stolen vehicles and ballistic vests, it added. Drug-related violence has seen more than 450,000 people killed in Mexico since the government deployed the army to combat trafficking in 2006, according to official figures. And gang-related violence has shown no sign of abating since Claudia Sheinbaum took office last October, becoming Mexico's first woman president. I had a question about that. Is it woman president or female president? You wouldn't say first man something. You would say first male, right? I don't know. I mean, I'm not opposed to saying first woman president. It just doesn't sound right. But anyway, the New York Times published a fake report last month trying to expose a fentanyl lab in Mexico, and the government scientifically debunked it. They've been trolling the New York Times ever since. Right? A fentanyl. Yeah, because that's the thing. They're trying to say all these people are, bringing drugs into the country and stuff. It's like, no, they're not. They're running from the U.S.'s foreign policy. She has ruled out declaring war on the cartels and instead proposed to continue her predecessor's strategy of using social policy to tackle crime at its roots, while also making better use of intelligence. Yeah, I guess that's all well and good to use, the social policy stuff, but sometimes you got to take some of these cats out. You got to take out the ones that's actually controlling them. And then you work with the social policies with the underlings, right? Got to cut the head of the snake off. Guanajuato, an industrial and farming hub, has for years had the highest number of homicides of any of Mexico's 32 states. The Jalisco cartel and the local Santa Rosa de Lima gang have been locked in a years-long turf battle in the state. Just last month, 8 people were killed and 2 others wounded after gunmen pulled up to a roadside stand in Guanajuato and opened fire on customers and bystanders. On October 4th, the bodies of 12 slain police officers, all bearing signs of torture and left with messages by cartels, were found in different areas of Salamanca. I know that name. Salamanca. A town in Guanajuato. The state prosecutor's office also said the perpetrators left messages in which a cartel claimed responsibility. Messages are often left on victims' bodies by cartels seeking to threaten their rivals or punish behavior they claim violates their rules. The bodies were found less than 24 hours after gunmen attacked a residential center for people suffering from addictions in the same municipality, killing 4. In June, a baby and a toddler were among 6 members of the same family murdered in Guanajuato. In April, a mayoral candidate was shot dead in the street in Guanajuato just as she began campaigning. The U.S. State Department urges Americans to reconsider traveling to Guanajuato. Of course, particular concern is the high number of murders in the southern region of the state associated with cartel-related violence, the department says in a travel advisory. So, yeah. Crazy stuff. What's up, Ghost Art? That's right. Take out the head of the United Snakes. Oops. Who armed and fund them. You're exactly right. That's what you got to do. Oh, my Lord. So dry. I'm like Ben Shapiro's wife. Oh, that was uncouth. But yet, I've never had couth. So, I don't know what having couth is like. I don't get it. So in Haiti, I know you know what's going on down there, with, all the chaos going on with the violence as, gang violence killed more than 5,600 people there in 2024, according to the UN. I know people from Haiti too. When I lived in New York and I worked with a couple, ladies from Haiti, super nice people. And I hate to see that their families going through all this bullshit down there. More than 5,600 people were killed and thousands more injured or kidnapped in 2024 due to soaring levels of gang violence in Haiti, the UN said. In a statement released yesterday, UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk condemned the absolute horrors faced by the population of the Caribbean country, noting rights abuses and corruption are also rife. Ooh, excuse me. Armed gangs maintain control of most of the capital Port-au-Prince following an outbreak of violence last year. At the same time, the police are also accused of perpetrating violence against gang suspects as the ongoing conflict serves to make worse the political instability that has plagued the island nation for decades. And they brought in the police force from Kenya, too, and I'm sure having a foreign police force on your soil will also ratchet up those tensions as well. These figures alone cannot capture the absolute horrors being perpetrated in Haiti, but they show the unremitting violence to which people are being subjected, Volker said. The UN statement noted that at least 207 people were killed in early December in a massacre orchestrated by the leader of the powerful Wharf Jeremy gang in the Cité Soleil area of the capital. Moreover, the UN Human Rights Office also documented at least 315 lynchings of gang members and people allegedly associated with gangs, on some occasions reportedly facilitated by Haitian police officers, and 281 cases of alleged summary executions involving specialized police units in 2024. It has long been clear that impunity for human rights violations and abuses, as well as corruption, remain prevalent in Haiti, Turk said. Last November, the UN ordered the evacuation of its staff from Haiti's capital due to clashes between armed gangs, the police, and civilians armed with machetes. However, the UN highlighted that it is not leaving Haiti, but only adapting its operations by moving its staff to safer parts of the country and others working remotely. Turk called for the National Police Force to hold accountable officers reportedly involved in rights abuses with international help. Fingerman! What's up, Fingerman? Good to see you. Restoring the rule of law must be a priority, Turk said, calling for the Kenyan-led UN mission tasked with quelling the violence to be granted the logistical and financial support it requires to successfully implement its mandate. A 430-strong UN-backed security mission comprised mostly of Kenyan police was sent last June to support Haiti's understaffed police department, but violence has continued to grow. Turk said the full implementation of UN Security Council mandated sanctions and an arms embargo must be used. Weapons flowing into Haiti often end up in the hands of the criminal gangs, with tragic results: thousands killed, hundreds of thousands displaced, essential infrastructure and services such as schools and hospitals disrupted and destroyed, he said. The Haitian government, backed by the U.S. and by other Caribbean nations, has also been calling for the UN Security Council to authorize a full-scale peacekeeping operation. But Russia and China, permanent members of the Security Council, have opposed the move, insisting that efforts to stop the gang violence should instead be focused on strengthening the Haitian police. Really? It's all on the police, right? Yeah, so that's what's going on in Haiti at the moment. All kinds of chaos going on around the world. So far, they've been trying to get rid of Maduro down in Venezuela for the longest of times, right? And of course, and guess who's kind of involved in this? Well, our little friend's named Israel. Venezuela arrests Israeli among 125 mercenaries involved in a coup plot. Dun, dun, dun. He goes, another coup plot. You're cuckoo. See, cuckoo. Venezuelan authorities arrested 125 foreign nationals, including an Israeli citizen, allegedly involved in a conspiracy to destabilize the country and overthrow President Nicolas Maduro's government. Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello accused the suspects of being mercenaries hired by external forces. I like that. External forces, ahead of Maduro's planned inauguration for a new 6-year term on January 10th, which is coming up. I hope you got your shopping done. That's Friday. Among those detained, he said, were nationals from 16 countries, including Israel, the U.S., Ukraine, Lebanon, Yemen, Albania, Guyana, Peru, Spain, Italy, Switzerland, and Uruguay. If you're Uruguay, then I'm Uruguay, and everyone's Uruguay. Venezuelan officials claim the operation was part of an ongoing effort to thwart what they described as U.S.-backed destabilization attempts. What? I've never heard of those. What are those? These U.S.-backed destabilization... During a press briefing on Monday, Cabello said the Venezuelan authorities seized firearms from the raids, but refused to reveal specific actions the suspects were allegedly involved in. The arrested individuals have been accused of having links to opposition groups and providing critical information about the funding and operational support behind their activities. During the address, Cabello accused former Colombian presidents Alvaro Uribe and Ivan Duque of supporting these destabilization efforts, linking them to Colombian narco-trafficking networks. He also alleged that Maria Corina Machado, a prominent Venezuelan opposition leader, had received financial backing from these illicit sources, in a bid to drive the country into chaos. The arrests come amid growing political tensions in Venezuela as the country prepares for Maduro's third consecutive term. The opposition, led by figures like Edmundo Gonzalez Urrutia, I thought that said urethra. Stop it! Claimed victory in the disputed July 28th elections, alleging widespread fraud. The international community remains divided, with many countries refusing to recognize Maduro's victory. Those would be the Western puppets. As Venezuela braces for another 10th presidential term, Cabello announced heightened security measures, particularly in the capital, Caracas. Thousands of military personnel and intelligence officers have been deployed in and around key government buildings, including the Legislative Palace and Miraflores Palace, where Maduro's inauguration will take place. Cabello's rhetoric suggests that the Venezuelan government is anticipating unrest from the opposition in the coming days. I thought it said urethra, but God knew she was going to make fun of me. Stop it. I knew how to say Uruguay, but that other one, that straight up said urethra. Don't lie to me, words. Some sectors of the opposition are nervous because of the increased security measures around the capital, he said. These actions are to protect Venezuela's democracy in the face of threats from destabilizing forces. Venezuelan authorities have intensified their efforts to clamp down on opposition leaders, including issuing an arrest warrant for Gonzalez Urrutia, I don't want to say, who remains in exile and has garnered international support for his claims of electoral fraud. While the Venezuelan government portrays these arrests as crucial for national security, analysts suggest that the detentions may also serve as leverage in the country's tense relations with the U.S. and other Western powers. The Maduro regime has historically used the detention of foreign nationals as a means of negotiating political concessions. In a previous exchange, the U.S. and Venezuela agreed to a prisoner swap involving several American detainees in return for the release of Alex Saab, a close ally of Maduro's. There we go. So I think that's all from that. That's the thing. All right there. So, cuckoo, cuckoo, more coos for you. Wait a minute, what happens? Everything went crazy. I don't think that's supposed to be on there. All right. Okay, so are we here? Man, we are humming along, but we still got a long way to go. Okay. Okay, cool. All right, we're back on track. Sorry. When you're one man running the show, you got to make sure everything's up and running. You try to do that beforehand, but sometimes things happen, like, angels or lasers, some shit. In Germany, Olaf Scholz has rejected drastic rise in German defense spending. What? Your masters are not going to like that. Sponsored by the United States. Nice. When you try to overthrow a vagina, it's called a coup-ter. I didn't say that. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz yesterday rebuffed a proposal to almost double the defense budget, seeking to position himself as a voice of moderation ahead of snap polls next month. Significantly increasing defense spending without saying what the money will be spent on and where it will come from was a half-baked idea, Schultz told the Stern Weekly. What? That's how we do it in America. You spend the money, you don't know where it comes from, you don't know where it's going. It's how it works, Schultzy. Come on, man. Cooter, you like that one, Miguel? I know. There's a little bit of a delay. So I'm like, oh man, sometimes these things don't hit, and then I'll see the crying eyes. Okay, I got you. Who will pay the bill? The citizens? Look at him using common sense. That's silly. The center-left chancellor was responding to a proposal made by his deputy, Robert Habeck, who will lead the Greens into general elections on February 23rd. In an interview with Spiegel magazine, Habeck called for Germany to increase its defense budget to 3.5% of gross domestic product, up from NATO's target of 2% of GDP. We have to spend almost twice as much on our defense so that Russian President Vladimir Putin does not dare to attack us, said Habeck, whose party was once staunchly pacifist. We have to spend the money. See, that's the gimmick. That's the scare gimmick. That's how they get you. So we got to spend the money. He said, what does he say? We have to spend almost twice as much on our defense so the Putin daddy doesn't come and spank us. That's the scam. And people are like, whoa, no, we don't want Putin to get us. Money, please, here you go. It's a scam. Germany reached the NATO benchmark last year for the first time in decades after Scholz announced a significant spending boost in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. See, NATO is nothing but a money laundering scheme. They want you to pay in all this money to buy all these weapons and stuff, and then the money gets, your clean money is taken over for somebody's dirty money that's going in there. Since the collapse of Scholz's three-way coalition in a row over spending priorities, that's a disagreement, in November, the chancellor has called for massive investments in defense and security. The harmless grandpa. The Social Democrat, however, tempered his defense spending ambitions with his latest comments while failing to give a specific figure. Scholz has tried to present himself as a prudent promoter of peace on triple P there. Look at there, the prudent promoter of peace on the campaign trail, responding to voter concerns over an escalation of the Ukraine war. The chancellor has emphasized his government's support for Ukraine, but repeatedly stressed that Germany must avoid being drawn directly into the conflict. What's up, CBC voter? Good to see you, man. Last year, 23 of NATO's 32 members hit the military alliance's 2% of GDP target, but Roots said a lot more will be needed to counter the threat from Russia. Oh, the NATO scam. That's what it is. Y'all want that protection, don't you? Putin gonna get you. You don't pony up that dough. Vladdy Daddy's gonna come and get us. I mean, like, fuck that. I'll go work for Vladdy Daddy if that's the case. And they're like, wait, what? You can do that? For all you who are into French politics, and who isn't, we've been talking about Marine Le Pen, the far-right leader in France, and the fuckery that's going on in the government there. Well, her father, he was a far-right figurehead. He is now probably in hell. French far-right figurehead Jean-Marie Le Pen dies. Oh, there he is in a chair. This is a small person right next to him. Jean-Marie Le Pen, who died Tuesday, aged 96, was the far-right boogeyman of French politics, infamously dismissing the Holocaust as a detail of history and spending half a century whipping up anger over immigration. The co-founder of the far-right National Front, later renamed the National Rally, was eventually booted out of the party by his own daughter, Marine, for anti-Semitism. A former paratrooper, Le Pen sent shockwaves through France in 2002 when he made it to the second round of the presidential election, which was won by Jacques Chirac. Le Pen, who seemed more at ease in the role of provocateur than would-be president, appeared as surprised as everyone else by his spectacular breakthrough. That's kind of like how Trump felt when he won the Republican nomination. Like, oh shit, this is actually happening. Years later, he boasted that the rise of the far right around Europe showed his ideas had gone mainstream. Born in the port of La Trinité-sur-Mer in the western Brittany region on June 20th, 1928, he was the son of a seamstress and a fisherman. His father's fishing boat hit a mine during World War II, killing him, a loss that hit the young Le Pen hard. Anxious to see action, Le Pen volunteered for service in 2 wars in French colonies, the First Indochina War from 46 to 54 in Vietnam, and then in Algeria from 54 to 62. Shortly after his return from Algeria, he entered politics and became France's youngest MP at 27 when he was elected to Parliament in 1956, but he was unable to resist the lure of the battlefield because he loved murdering people. Later that year, he took part in the Franco-British military expedition to seize the Suez Canal, and a few years later joined forces fighting to keep Algeria French. They called it CAFA, Keep Algeria French Again. As in Vietnam, he was infuriated to see France losing its colonial possessions, accusing World War II hero Charles de Gaulle of helping make France small by granting Algeria its independence. A consummate orator and trained lawyer, he tapped into the anger of right-wingers nostalgic for the empire and French settlers forced to flee the North African country. The eye patch he wore for many years added to his pugilistic air. Years later, Le Pen revealed that he lost his eye driving a tent peg into a hole and not, as widely thought, in a brawl. In 1972, he co-founded the National Front, billed as a national, social, and popular party, and 2 years later made his first run for president. The early years were tumultuous, with his unabashed racism and anti-Semitism striking a raw nerve in a country still haunted by the collaborationist Vichy regime during World War II. In 1976, a bomb ripped through the Paris apartment building where Le Pen lived with his wife Pierrette and 3 daughters, slightly injuring 6 people but sparing the Le Pens. 8 years later, Pierrette walked out of the marriage, resurfacing shortly afterwards to pose nearly nude for Playboy magazine in a French maid's outfit, her pointed answer to her husband's advice to get a job as a cleaner. Nice. The FN's first big electoral breakthrough came in the mid-1980s, where the party won 35 seats in Parliament, but its fortunes fluctuated sharply over the next 2 decades, partly a result of changes in the election system that favored big parties. Le Pen's message remained unchanged, however, with immigration, the political elite, and the European Union all taking a bashing, even though he himself was a member of the European Parliament for over 30 years. In 2007, Le Pen maintained that Nicolas Sarkozy, the son of a Hungarian immigrant who went on to win the presidency, we were telling you about he's on trial now, was not sufficiently French to hold the office. He repeatedly warned that African immigration would submerge the country and claimed the Nazi occupation of the northern half of France in World War II was not particularly inhumane. Hey, what's up, Jacqueline? Good to see you. Good morning. But it was comments on the Holocaust, which he repeatedly called a detail of history, that caused the most shock. The remark earned the politician nicknamed the Devil of the Republic and one in a string of convictions for anti-Semitism and racism. It also drove a wedge between him and his daughter Mornin, who embarked on a mission to clean up the FN's image after taking over the party leadership in 2011. She called the process de-diabolization or de-demonization in an apparent nod to the legacy left by her father. 4 years of uneasy political cohabitation between father and daughter ended in a blazing row in 2015 when the younger Le Pen kicked him out of the party for his Holocaust remarks. The ultimate humiliation for Le Pen Sr. came when Mornin ditched the National Front brand in early 2018. She would have to commit suicide to cut her links with me, he had told the Journal du Dimanche newspaper. Further ignominy was in store for him, however. His adored granddaughter, Marion Maréchal Le Pen, a telegenic former MP tipped as a future leader of the far right, also distanced herself from the family brand. She dropped Le Pen from her name on her social media accounts, becoming simply Marion Maréchal. I like that. It's got a nice flow to it. Marion perhaps thinks that it's too much weight to carry, her grandfather grumbled. His former party, now the National Rally, has since made significant inroads in both European and French politics. Under Marine Le Pen, it showed strong gains in this year's European Parliament elections and became the largest single party in a subsequent general election in France. Yeah, so like daughter, like pops, I guess, right? So, you know, everybody has been kind of jumping into the fray when it comes to accusing Israel of genocide. I'm not just talking about people, I'm talking about countries as well. As Ireland has formally joined the ICJ genocide case against Israel. Ireland has submitted a declaration to join South Africa's case at the International Court of Justice accusing Israel of genocide. Ireland, invoking Article 63 of the Statute of the Court, filed in the registry of the court a declaration of intervention in the case concerning application of the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide in the Gaza Strip, or South Africa versus Israel, the ICJ said in a statement on January 7th. Under Article 63, any state party to a convention that is under judicial consideration has the right to intervene, making the ICJ's interpretation of that convention binding on them as well. Irish Foreign Minister Michael Martin announced in December his government would join the ICJ case. Israel closed its embassy in Dublin in response, while the Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar described Ireland's Prime Minister, Simon Harris, as anti-Semitic because, yes, Harris responded by saying, you know what I think is reprehensible? Killing children. I think that's reprehensible. You know what I think is reprehensible? Seeing the scale of civilian deaths that we've seen in Gaza. You know what I think is reprehensible? People are being left to starve and humanitarian aid is not flowing. Do not see the lie anywhere there. Israel. Sorry. U.S. Palestinian entrepreneur and art curator Faisal Salah said he had begun efforts to lease the closed Israeli embassy building and convert it into a Palestinian museum. You'll have to probably get a priest in there or some sort of an Islamic holy person to bring some herbs and stuff in there to fucking cleanse the evil spirits. This will be a very powerful symbolic move where Palestinian art replaces the genocidal entity representation in Ireland, Salah told Anadolu Ajansi on January 3rd. Israel began its war on Gaza in October 2023, placing the Strip under total siege and unleashing a horrific bombing campaign targeting Palestinian civilians and Hamas fighters alike. In December of that year, South Africa filed an application instituting proceedings against Israel, claiming its actions in Gaza were in violation of the Genocide Convention. Several countries have since joined the case, including Nicaragua, Colombia, Libya, Mexico, Palestine, Spain, and Turkey. In 15 months of war, Israeli forces have killed over 46,000 Palestinians in Gaza. Of course, that total is much more with the bodies that still haven't been recovered under the rubble, while injuring well over 105,000 as well. So the world is starting to get their act together. I don't know how much of these are just formal, or how much they're actually if any one of these people were to land in Ireland, would they actually go after them? Would they actually arrest them? That sort of thing. Peace, Dove. What's up? Leanna, good to see you. Good morning. Kiss a ginger for Ireland. The land of ire. That sounds good. All right, so yeah, I mean, and we need more of that. We need more of the nations to come together and do that. Obviously, I mean, unless they have some sort of power over the United States, there's not really much they can do. But you never know. I mean, I've noticed the last few years practically anything can happen. So I'm not ruling out any good possibilities either. So meanwhile, in Tibet, they are dealing with a deadly earthquake there. Kills nearly over 100 people in Tibet and rattles Nepal. So magnitude 6.8 earthquake rocked the northern foothills of the Himalayas near one of Tibet's holiest cities on Tuesday, killing at least 95 people and shaking buildings in neighboring Nepal, Bhutan, and India. The quake hit at 9:05 a.m. local time, with its epicenter located in Tingri, a rural county known as the northern gateway to the Everest region, at a depth of 10 kilometers, about 6.2 miles, according to the China Earthquake Network Center. The U.S. Geological Service put the quake's magnitude at 7.1. At least 95 people were known to have been killed and 130 injured on the Tibetan side, China's state-run television reported 6 hours later. There were no reports of deaths elsewhere. Southwestern parts of China, Nepal, and northern India are frequently hit by earthquakes caused by the collision of the Indian and Eurasian tectonic plates. That's why we have the Himalayas, because those plates, boop. Tuesday's epicenter was around 50 miles north of Mount Everest, the world's highest mountain, and a popular destination for climbers, trekkers, and psychopaths. Winter is not a popular season for climbers and hikers in Nepal, with a German climber, the lone mountaineer with a permit to climb Mount Everest. He had already left the base camp after failing to reach the summit. Lilithar Awasthi, a Department of Tourism official, said. Nepal's National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Authority, or NDERMA, said the tremors were felt in 7 hill districts bordering Tibet. So far, we've not received any information on any loss of life and property, spokesperson Dizan Batarai told Reuters. We have mobilized police, security forces, and local authorities to collect information, he said. Many villages in the Nepalese border area, which are sparsely populated, are remote and can only be reached by foot. The impact of the quake was felt across the Shigatse region of Tibet, home to 800,000 people. The region is administered by Shigatse City, the traditional seat of the Panchen Lama, one of the most important figures in Tibetan Buddhism. Chinese President Xi Jinping said all-out search and rescue efforts should be carried out to minimize casualties, properly resettle the affected people, and ensure a safe and warm winter. More than 1,500 local firefighters and rescue workers have been dispatched to the affected areas. Some 22,000 items, including cotton tents, cotton coats, quilts, and folding beds, have also been sent to the quake-hit region. Villages in Tingri, where the average elevation is around 4,000 to 5,000 meters, that's about 13,000 to 16,000 feet, way up in the air, very little oxygen, reported strong shaking during the quake, which was followed by dozens of aftershocks with magnitudes of up to 4.4. Crumbled shop fronts could be seen in a video on social media showing the aftermath in the town of Lhasa, with debris spilling out onto the road. Reuters was able to confirm the location based on nearby buildings, windows, road layout, and signage that matched satellite and street view imagery. There are 3 townships and 27 villages within 12 miles of the epicenter, with a total population of around 6,900, and more than 1,000 houses have been damaged. Local government officials were liaising the nearby towns to gauge the impact of the quake and check for casualties. And China closed the Everest region to tourists after the quake. The Tingri tremor was caused by a rupture in what is known as the Lhasa block in an area under north-south compression and west-east stress, CCTV reported. So that's the plate underneath that has so that were compressed, and then they have the stress, and then the boom. Since 1950, there have been 21 earthquakes of magnitude 6 or above in Lhasa block, the largest of which was the 6.9 magnitude quake in Mainling in 2017. Mainling is located in the lower reaches of Tibet's Yarlung-Zangbo River, where China is planning to build the world's largest hydropower dam. A magnitude 7.8 tremor struck near Nepal's capital, Kathmandu, in 2015, killing about 9,000 people and injuring thousands in the country's worst ever earthquake. Among the dead were at least 18 people killed at the Mount Everest base camp when it was hit by an avalanche. On Tuesday, tremors were felt in Kathmandu, some 250 miles from the epicenter, and residents in the city ran out of their houses. The bed was shaking, and I thought my child was moving the bed. I didn't pay that much attention, but the shaking of a window made me understand that it's an earthquake, said Kathmandu resident Mira Adhikari. I'm still shaking out of fear and am in shock. See, that's why you don't have kids, right? Because you don't think, if you have kids, then you think the kid's shaking the bed. But if you don't have kids, you're like, who the fuck's shaking my bed? And yeah, so I'm just saying, have kids if you want, but just saying, in an earthquake situation, you're better off not having them. One person was injured in Kathmandu when he jumped off the top of a house after feeling the strong tremors. Nepal police spokesman Bishwa Adhikari said the man was being treated in hospital. The quake also jolted Thimphu, the capital of Bhutan, and the northern Indian state of Bihar, which borders Nepal. So far, no reports of any damage or loss to property have been received, officials in India and Bhutan said. Right? Quakes. They just had a quake up on the East Coast not too long ago. It's a little bit of a tremor, but not like, not like that. Meanwhile, North Korea, they have nukes, right? And they've said they have nukes. They tell the world they have nukes so that nobody fucks with them, right? So now the new game is hypersonic missiles and hypersonic weapons. Well, North Korea said, well, we got those too. North Korea says test of new hypersonic missile successful. So I guess it's them showing that on North Korean TV. North Korea has carried out the successful test launch of a new intermediate-range hypersonic missile and will accelerate the development of nuclear and missile capabilities, state media report. The hypersonic missile was fired from the outskirts of Pyongyang on Monday. It flew about 932 miles at 12 times the speed of sound, reaching an altitude of nearly 62 miles before descending to a second peak of 26.4 miles and maneuvering to hit a target in waters off the country's east coast, the Korean Central News Agency reported Tuesday. New carbon fiber composite materials were used in the missile's engine section, KCNA said, adding that it can effectively penetrate any dense defense barrier and inflict a serious military blow on the opponent. Carbon fiber is lighter and stronger than other aerospace materials such as aluminum, but is more difficult to manufacture. South Korea's military said the KCNA report was most likely exaggerated, estimating the range the missile flew to be about 683 miles and saying no second peak was detected. Achieving a second peak would imply the North Korean missile was capable of changing course and maintaining altitude rather than directly descending on a ballistic trajectory. Analysts said the new missile launch was concerning because it included technology few nations have access to. What's so alarming about this missile is that this technology is currently possessed only by Russia, China, and the United States, said Yang Mu-jin, president of the University of North Korean Studies in Seoul. What's especially impressive about this technology is that achieving such speeds requires materials that can withstand extreme conditions. According to South Korea's Yonhap news agency, the country's joint chiefs of staff did concede that North Korea appears to have made some technological progress in its hypersonic weapons program and did not rule out Russian assistance in that achievement. Russia and North Korea signed a mutual defense agreement last year, and U.S., Ukrainian, and South Korean intelligence have claimed that more than 10,000 North Korean soldiers and conventional weapon systems have been sent to support Moscow's war on Ukraine. Concerns have also intensified recently that Russia could transfer more advanced weapons technology to North Korea. A detailed analysis of the missile test would be conducted with the United States, South Korea's main military ally, the JCS said. North Korea leader Kim Jong-un, who presided over the test launch by monitoring the operation via teleconference video alongside his young daughter, said the missile was part of the country's defenses. This is clearly a plan and effort for self-defense, not an offensive plan and action, Kim said. The development of new type hypersonic missile is mainly aimed to steadily put the country's nuclear war deterrent on an advanced basis. Monday's test launch was the first since November, when North Korea test-fired what it said was its most advanced and powerful solid-fuel intercontinental ballistic missile. North Korea has been developing new solid-fuel missiles amid an intensifying race for the next generation of long-range projectiles that are difficult to track and intercept. So more boom boom for North Korea, but it's a fast boom boom, so it's like pew 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 pew, and you can't see it, right? So as this new year is dawning, people are wondering what's going to happen in Ukraine, as they're getting their ass kicked by Russia. And Trump has already signaled he wants to cut the funding. So it's a sign of the times. Battles against Russia intensify. Ukraine's manpower struggles worsen. And this is where the North Koreans come in, too. As Ukrainian forces fight in the western Russian region of Kursk, they are encountering a new enemy, elite North Korean servicemen. On Sunday, Ukrainian infantry and armored vehicles resumed an offensive in 3 directions in Kursk, trying to fence their toehold in the district center of Sudza that they had seized in August. By Tuesday, they occupied at least 3 villages northeast of Sudza and inflicted losses on the North Koreans that fight in separate units under Russian command. We thinned their ranks. They have losses, although Kim didn't just send ordinary servicemen, a Ukrainian soldier told Al Jazeera, referring to North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. He did not disclose his name, details, and exact whereabouts of the battles in accordance with wartime regulations. South Korean and U.S. officials have said Kim deployed more than 10,000 elite soldiers to Kursk. Hundreds are understood to have been killed there already. More than 280 miles south of Kursk, another Ukrainian serviceman keeps repelling waves of Russian infantrymen near the key southeastern city of Pokrovsk. Looks like they send a new brigade every day, the serviceman told Al Jazeera. Russians keep advancing despite a reported lack of tanks and armored vehicles. They keep pushing. The only problem they have is their equipment. They can't throw it around the way they did 3 or 4 months ago, he said. But the biggest problem his unit, as well as all of Ukraine's armed forces, faces is a dire shortage of manpower. Last week, Ukrainian troops retreated from the eastern town of Kharkov, which Russian troops claimed control of on Monday. Kiev's forces have also lost a key coal mine near Pokrovsk and could be about to lose Ukraine's biggest lithium deposit in Shekhev. The The Kurakov defense installations have been taken over just because we didn't have anybody there, the serviceman said. The most motivated soldiers have been killed. The new ones lack training and motivation. He also cited poor decisions made by commanding officers, alleging they want to appease their superiors and do not value the lives of servicemen. I've been wounded so many times because of the commander's stupidity, he said. The Russian forces that seized Kharkov are looting abandoned apartments, a local woman alleged. They're breaking into apartments that haven't been damaged by shelling. They steal everything they can carry. Olena Basenko, a former sales clerk from Kharkov who is looking for her elderly aunt who refused to leave the town, told Al Jazeera. Some liberators they are, she said sarcastically, referring to Moscow's pledge to liberate Ukraine from President Volodymyr Zelensky's neo-Nazi junta, Russian claims that have been debunked throughout the war. Ukraine's shortage of manpower has led some analysts to doubt Kiev's push to resume the Kursk offensive. Zelensky's strategy is to mass brigades with equipment in the rear only, giggity, to solemnly lose them in the land of Kursk to gain 1 mile of farmland, Nikolai Mitrokin, a researcher with Germany's Bremen University, told Al Jazeera. The units that are advancing in Kursk could instead have been used to defend Kharkov, he said. However, others see the Kursk offensive as a chance to gain an important bargaining chip. See, it's all war is about, is bargaining chips. Ukraine may try to seize a Russian nuclear power plant in the town of Kurchatov that lies about 45 miles northeast of Sudza, and could attempt to seize Kursk's regional capital 20 miles farther away. If successful, the takeover of Kurchatov may become a significant strategic gain, according to the former deputy head of Ukraine's General Staff of Armed Forces. We didn't want to make things worse, but we need to, Lieutenant General Ihor Romanenko told Al Jazeera. Kiev may also invade the nearby Russian region of Bryansk, dealing a heavy blow to Russian President Putin's domestic reputation, he said. It will be painful to Putin, and if there's an offensive somewhere in Bryansk or some other regions, it will make him think, Romanenko said. Some Russians ridicule Putin's policies that led to the first foreign invasion of Western Russia since World War II. If the grandpa from the bunker is so wise, why do we have Ukrainians on Russian land? Something must be wrong. Roman, a 48-year-old Muscovite who served in a tank unit in the 90s, told Al Jazeera, deriding the Russian president. How much more is this in here? So this goes on to talk more about the war there, and and we're seeing the numbers. I try not to report the numbers too much because it's just a tally every day of just back and forth and back and forth. But as soon as something concrete comes out of there, which it probably will, once the funding runs out, that's when when they said, I think they said if the funding ran out, they'd only have like months before they would just fold anyway. I didn't say that, Kate. They said that in there. Hey, Lala, what's up? Good to see you, sweetie. Yeah. So, Biden's about to be out of here in about 12 days. So he's trying to get as much of our money out the door as possible. This is from the Libertarian Institute. Kyle Anzalone over there reporting. Good stuff there. Biden to rush final substantial weapons transfer to Ukraine. Before President Joe Biden exits the White House later this month, he's planning a massive final aid package for Ukraine. Remember that $9 billion that just went out for Israel? The Pentagon will attempt to rush the weapons to Kiev before President-elect Donald Trump takes office. Two defense officials said the new package would be announced on Thursday during a meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group at an American military base in Germany, the AP reported. The sources added that the weapons will come directly from U.S. military stockpiles and will be fast-tracked to Ukraine before Trump's second term begins in less than 2 weeks. The rush to provide Kiev with a substantial arms shipment before Trump returns to power appears aimed at undermining the president-elect's stated goal of bringing the war in Ukraine to an end. Since the American people voted for Trump to be the next president, the current administration has significantly escalated support for Kiev, even allowing Ukrainian forces to use long-range American missiles against targets inside Russia. Biden has also signed off on billions of dollars in aid to Ukraine since the war kicked off in early 2022. The sources did not tell the AP how large the final package would be, giggity, though there is about $4 billion in congressionally authorized funding for Ukraine. The officials indicated that the Trump administration will have more than a couple billion in funding to send weapons to Ukraine. While Trump pledged to bring the war to a close on the campaign trail, some incoming officials have stated that he intends to continue the arms shipments once he returns to power. Of course, that stuff's got to keep going. What's up, old man Barker? Good to see you. So he's going to keep the arms going. Since the start of the war, Washington has approved over $180 billion in aid to Ukraine. However, Kiev insists it has received only a fraction of that sum. Of course it is, because it's a money laundering scheme. It's been that way the whole time. Zelensky, Ukrainian fuckhead, elaborated during a recent podcast interview with Lex Friedman, saying, if we take, for example, money from the United States of America, during all this time of the war, around $177 billion have been voted for or decided upon. $177 billion, he continued. Let's be honest, we have not received half of this money. I bet your cocaine dealer has. Somebody did. They love cocaine. Ask Hunter. The White House has announced at least $60 billion in military aid, along with more than $100 billion in other forms of assistance. While America's NATO allies have committed an additional $60 billion plus in military support for the Ukrainian war effort. More money, more money, more money, more money, more money, but not for you and me. No, ma'am. You better put on some Israel or Ukrainian clothes. You might get some money then. So Syria is still shitting the bed, as it were, even though the HTS says they're in charge. Are they really? I don't think so. Turkish drone strikes U.S.-backed Kurds as clashes rage in northern Syria. Yep, that's right. Your corrupt Congress did. All right, Jacqueline, have a good one. Heavy clashes between Turkish-backed militants and U.S.-backed Kurdish fighters continue to rage across the Aleppo countryside in northern Syria this morning as Ankara provided air cover to its proxies throughout the fighting. A Turkish drone struck a vehicle belonging to the U.S.-backed Syrian Democratic Forces, the SDF, in the eastern Aleppo countryside on Wednesday. Turkish artillery shelling also hit the vicinity of the Karkozak Bridge south of the city of Kobani. Factions from Ankara's Syrian National Army, the SNA, proxy force fired rockets at SDF positions near the bridge. Turkish drones also bombed an SDF rocket launcher near Manbij in the Aleppo countryside and an SDF vehicle in the city of Malikia in northeast Hasaka. Turkish warplanes bombed Tishreen Dam and its surroundings with a number of raids coinciding with attacks carried out by mercenary factions affiliated with Turkey on villages north of Tishreen Dam and southeast of Manbij, where violent clashes are taking place, SDF's media center announced. Civilian casualties have been reported. Turkey's proxies have been trying to secure control over the Tishreen Dam for weeks. The fighting between the SDF and the SNA has escalated recently, despite a fragile U.S.-brokered ceasefire agreement. The SDF Media Center warned that the dam was in danger of collapsing and said Turkey is responsible for whatever disaster may befall the area as a result of continuous airstrikes. SDF also confirmed its fighters destroyed 2 vehicles loaded with weapons belonging to SNA factions. A day earlier, SDF-affiliated Kurdish authorities in North Syria warned that the Tishreen Dam was at risk of being put out of service by Turkish attacks. The strategic dam, one of the most important in Syria, is viewed as the key to controlling the area east of the Euphrates. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, the SOHR, reported that over 280 people have been killed in the clashes in recent weeks. 25 are civilians, including 5 women and children, according to SOHR. SDF forces remain in control of large chunks of northeastern Syria and part of Deir ez-Zor governorate, in particular the eastern bank of the Euphrates River. The Kurdish militia created with the support of the U.S. in 2015 has helped Washington retain control of Syria's oil and wheat-rich regions since 2017. Remember, those are the ones that Trump said, well, we got the oil fields. That's all we got the oil fields. Turkey's Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan said on January 6th that Kurdish militias in Syria will soon be driven out of the country and that Ankara will not agree to any policy allowing them to maintain a presence there. The SDF is made up predominantly of fighters from the People's Protection Unit, the YPG, the Syrian branch of Ankara's sworn foe, the Kurdistan Workers' Party, the PKK. Yeah, so you too old for any of that? Okay. Okay. That's fine too. I'm pretty sure. All right, love you too, Laura. Be good. Yeah, so this dam that they're worried about over there. And when that dam breaks, you're talking about flooding in the region. You're talking about all kinds of crazy shit happening. So there's a whistleblower in Afghanistan, I believe. This one is wild. So British Afghanistan whistleblower feared for personal safety inquiry hears. This is from The National. Afghan families have accused UK special forces of conducting a campaign of murder against civilians from 2010 to 2013. A member of the British Special Forces who reported alleged flat-packing murders of civilians in Afghanistan has told an inquiry they fear for their personal well-being after speaking out, documents have shown. During a series of closed meetings at the independent inquiry relating to Afghanistan, members of special forces have given evidence about the alleged murders that took place between 2010 and 2013. So that's the UK special forces there. The witness told the inquiry that they had trained with a member of the accused unit, UK Special Forces 1, where they had allegedly spoken about what happened on operations. The witness, known to the inquiry as N1799, said in a statement that the account given by the UKSF member in question, designated N1201, was in juxtaposition with a talk given by commanding officers months before that UKSF does not operate outside of the law. They told the inquiry they feared for their safety when they made the allegation against UKSF 1, adding, "I still do now." The witness said a note they had provided to officers of the conversation with N1201 was not as graphic as what they had in fact said. A partial transcript of the hearing read, "I don't want to just sit here and make stuff up, but I just know that it felt more shocking than, look, it's not great reading. Obviously, it's shocking reading this, but I just feel it was slightly more graphic. Words that have been used about killing were like flat packing them. They're quite normal in the military world. People have been on multiple operations, as we all had, and I just felt that, and this would have been discussed, I believe, with the other officer or two officers in the room when I was writing it to make sure that it was readable and understandable. N1799 also told the inquiry that he was aware of rumors of UKSF carrying dropped weapons, which were firearms allegedly placed next to targets to give the impression they were armed when they were shot. He also he said a dropped weapon was also known as Mr. Wolf. Oliver Glasgow, KC, counsel to the inquiry, asked when you heard it described as a Mr. Wolf, was that used by one person or by more than one person, or can you not remember? And N1799 replied, at least 2 or 3 people. Mr. Glasgow continued, have you seen the film Pulp Fiction by Quentin Tarantino, where the individual who introduces himself as Mr. Wolf says, I'm Mr. Wolf and I'm here to solve problems. Do you remember that? And the witness said, no, I don't. Chairman Mr. Justice Haddon Cave interjected, Mr. Glasgow, I have not seen that film. Mr. Glasgow said, well, it is probably not essential viewing for anyone but that particular individual in that film. He acts to clear up problems and to make crimes go away, does he not? Right, I had not put 2 and 2 together. So I don't know who this Mr. Wolf person is. Question by Mr. Glasgow on whether he had any concerns for his own personal well-being after making allegations against UKSF-1. The witness said, I did then and I still do now. Mr. Glasgow continued, as to how that might be perceived by others within the wider UK Special Forces community. Is there a danger that you might be branded as a traitor? And he said, yes. Another member of the Special Forces who was involved in managing an Afghan partner unit, APU, said Afghans felt like they were being treated like dogs by the Special Forces 1 unit. The witness, known as N1791, was questioned on whether he understood the position that the APU were not happy with the role that they were playing on any UKSF-1-led operation, to which they replied yes. That they felt they were being left out and kept at the rear, yes. Apparently these UK Special Forces are pretty fucked up. Question on whether the APU was not used to operating the way UKSF-1 did compared with the previous UKSF unit it had worked with. The witness said yes, and it was stronger than that. The phrase that I do recall was, we're treated like dogs. Afghan families have accused UK Special Forces of conducting a campaign of murder against civilians, while senior officers and personnel at the Ministry of Defense sought to prevent adequate investigation. No charges were brought under Operation Northmoor, which was set up in 2014 to examine allegations of killings by special forces, including those of children. A further Royal Military Police investigation, codename Operation Sestro, referred 3 soldiers to the Service Prosecuting Authority, but none of them were prosecuted. The inquiry continues, right? Yeah, and the same shit was happening with U.S. troops in Iraq too. And I'm probably sure the U.S. forces and the Afghanis too. Yes. So, meanwhile, Israel is still pushing its way through South Lebanon as the greater Israel expansion continues. Tel Aviv continues South Lebanon violations as U.S. envoy promises full Israeli withdrawal. Wink, 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 wink. Yeah, so Israeli troops advanced in South Lebanon and carried out artillery attacks against homes yesterday, or actually this morning. One day after Washington's envoy promised that Tel Aviv would fully withdraw its forces from the country by the end of the 60-day ceasefire period. Just like they would say the 30-day red line there with the things, and they said, we're all right. They wouldn't let aid in, and they still wouldn't let aid in, and the U.S. was like, they're fine. Several homes were struck by Israeli artillery on the outskirts of the town of Bint Jbeil, while armored vehicles advanced toward Marun al-Ras, according to Al Mayadeen's correspondent and Lebanon's national news agency. Israeli forces also carried out a large detonation operation on the Rab al-Thalathine Tabay Road in the Marjayoun district, NNA reported. Artillery targeted the Marjayoun plain and other areas earlier on Wednesday, including an attack which hit the house of Bint Jabil's mayor. The Israeli army also blew up homes, set fire to forests, and destroyed sidewalks near Nakora, ahead of withdrawing from the area, according to NNA. The Israeli military started its withdrawal from Nakora and back into Israel proper today, south of the Blue Line. These withdrawals will continue until all Israeli forces are out of Lebanon completely, and as the Lebanese army continues to deploy into the south and all the way to the Blue Line. U.S. envoy Amos Hochstein said December 7th during a visit to Lebanon. I have no reason not to expect that all parties will remain committed to implementing the agreement that they agreed to, he added, forgetting that, Israel always fucks these things up. Lebanon's Prime Minister Najib Mikati demanded on December 8th a clear timetable for Israel's withdrawal before the 60-day ceasefire period. The ceasefire agreement announced on November 27th, based on UN Resolution 1701, stipulates that the Lebanese army must dismantle Hezbollah's presence and infrastructure south of the Litani River in a period of 60 days, during which Israel is also required to withdraw its forces from South Lebanon. The agreement is being overseen by a U.S.-led tripartite mechanism involving France and UNIFIL. It has been violated over 1,000 times by Israel. Several recent reports have said that Israel is geared up to maintain its presence in the south past the 60-day period. Tel Aviv is unsatisfied with the Lebanese army's efforts to implement the deal and says Hezbollah has not left the area since areas south of the Litani. According to Al Akbar newspaper, the Lebanese army has received serious signals from the U.S. that Israel could potentially extend its presence in South Lebanon by 30 days. Israel Hayom reported late last month that Tel Aviv is considering extending its presence in South Lebanon due to slow deployment of the Lebanese army in the region. Yeah, that's the reason. Oh, you guys are too slow, so we're just going to hang out. What's up, Global? What's up, Matt? Good to see you. Good morning. Happy hump day to you. And these Israeli settlers are pretty fucking buck wild, too. You got to remember a lot of these settlers are these high-maintenance bitches from Brooklyn that were told, hey, come on over, get your free house. It's these kind of people. Israeli settlers rampage through Palestinian villages, setting vehicles on fire. These are the settlers. Israeli settlers set ablaze property across the occupied West Bank on Monday in the latest rampage against Palestinian towns and villages. Under the protection of Israeli forces, of course, crowds of settlers launched attacks near the village of Al-Funduk near Kalkalia, the site of a shooting earlier on Monday that left 3 Israeli settlers dead. Attacks extended to a few villages east of the city, including Haja, Farada, and Imatan, according to the official Palestinian news agency Wafa. Settlers set fire to a vehicle, threw stones, damaged homes, destroyed crops, threw flammable material at an uninhabited building, and even burned a bulldozer in one of the villages. Palestinians who attempted to confront the attacks were met with live bullets from Israeli forces, according to the local news website Arab 48. Another arson attack was reported in the town of Termus Aya, north of Ramallah, where an agricultural room belonging to one of the residents was burnt, according to sources interviewed by Wafa. In Bethlehem, settlers pelted stones at vehicles passing through the main road. No injuries were reported, but still pretty fucked up. The large-scale attacks follow a shooting in the village of Al-Funduk, where attackers targeted a bus and 2 cars on a road settlers often transit through to the illegal settlements of Kedumim, Sheve, Shamron, and others. Israeli officials said 2 Palestinians were responsible for the shooting, with the fate of the attackers unknown. Subsequent manhunt has cut off Calcalia, that is a hard one to say because of the Q's, Calcalia, and surrounding areas, with Israel's military tightening its control on exits and entry points and setting up roadblocks. The attacks came amid increasing incitement of violence against Palestinians by far-right Israeli politicians following the Monday shooting, with Palestinians being labeled as terrorists. Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich described the attack as an act of terrorism and compared it to the events in Gaza. Of course he did. Those who trust the Palestinian Authority to maintain the security of Israeli citizens wake up to a morning when terrorists are again slaughtering Jewish residents, the far-right minister wrote in a post on the tweeters. Smotrich added that the occupied West Bank must end up looking like North Gaza's Jabalia, which has been decimated following Israel's implementation of the general's plan to ethnically cleanse the area. Meanwhile, Israel's far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir said that Israelis should realize that there are no commonalities with the Palestinians. Jesus Christ, these are the Israeli leaders too. Whoever strives for an end to the war in Gaza will receive a war in Judea and Samaria, he said on the tweeters using the Israeli name for the West Bank. Settler violence is not a new phenomenon in the occupied West Bank, where large swaths of territory are under Israeli civil and military control. However, since Israel's war on Gaza began in 2023, land seizures and violent attacks aimed at forcing the Palestinians to abandon their homes have spiked. Israeli settler violence against Palestinians in 2024 was the worst on record, according to the UN. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, that's OCHA, registered 1,400 incidents by settlers in the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem, including physical assaults, arson attacks, raids on Palestinian communities, and the destruction of fruit trees. This amounts to nearly 4 incidents per day, resulting in the killing and wounding of Palestinians, damage to their property, or both. Around 700,000 Israeli settlers live in roughly 300 illegal settlements in the West Bank and occupied East Jerusalem, all of which have been built since Israel captured the territories in the 1967 conflict. Under international law, settlement construction in an occupied territory is illegal. Around 4,700 people were internally displaced across the West Bank over the past year, with 12% citing settler violence and access restrictions as a reason for their displacement, according to OSHA. Yes, so more settlers, illegal settlers, with having the IDF there as their riflemen, taking more land and terrorizing more Palestinians. So, new year, new rotten schemes by Netanyahu, as Netanyahu approves new offensive and defensive operations in the occupied West Bank. So Netanyahu's office announced that he approved a series of additional military operations in the West Bank. According to his office, these operations include additional offensive and defensive measures in the West Bank, as well as arresting perpetrators of operations against Israel and bringing them to justice. The decision followed Netanyahu's meeting on January 6th with Defense Minister Israel Katz and Chief of Staff Herzi Halevi. Earlier today, Netanyahu vowed to liquidate those responsible for killing 3 Jewish settlers in the West Bank earlier on Monday. We will reach the killers, settle our accounts with them and with those who helped them, and no one will escape from us, Bibi stated. Israel increased the size and number of its military operations against Palestinian resistance groups in the occupied West Bank after Hamas's Operation Al-Aqsa Flood in 2023. Israel's war in Gaza, as we said, killed over 45,000 people. After a recent visit to Jenin, The Guardian observed that Israel hopes it can delegate stamping out militant activity to the Ramallah-based authority, and the PA is seeking to prove it will be able to handle governing the Gaza Strip when the war there ends, even though the PA is taking part in, suppressing their own people. However, yeah, residents of the camp are angry at the PA security forces for their collaboration with Israel against the local resistance fighters. Most of these young men are part of small ad hoc militias only loosely affiliated with the traditional Palestinian factions such as Fatah and its rival Hamas, the UK paper added. Miriam, a 23-year-old resident of the camp, stated, "This is basically a civil war, Palestinians killing Palestinians." Yep, that's another thing, too. Another way to divide and conquer. Well, another way to conquer people is to divide them up like that. Residents were further angered after a sniper from the PA security forces shot and killed 22-year-old journalism student Shata al-Sabag on Saturday. Amid the violence in Jenin, Israel's Jewish settlers are hoping that incoming U.S. President Donald Trump will allow them to formally annex the occupied West Bank, which he probably most likely will because he's a super cuck for Israel. The New York Times reported on Monday that some of President-elect Donald Trump's staffing choices have raised hopes among settlers that annexation could happen. Members of Trump's staff, including incoming Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee, that guy, the sleep pill guy, have visited the West Bank settlements and expressed their strong support for them and Israel. Trump's team was here. They saw the reality, and for me, that's a total relief, said Israel Gantz, the head of a council governing the settlement of Shiloh. Recently, the International Court of Justice reaffirmed that all Israeli Jewish settlements in the West Bank are illegal under international law and must be dismantled. Israeli forces occupied the West Bank in 1967, have been building illegal settlements for Jewish Israelis on stolen Palestinian land ever since. Yes, so they continue to steal the land, and Netanyahu is all about it. So that Greater Israel plan, it's coming, unless somebody stops it. So Israel knows the writing's on the wall, and people are going to stop supporting them when it comes to weapons. So they're taking it upon themselves to make their own. Israel to produce munitions locally, reduce reliance on U.S. for heavy bombs. Israel's defense ministry signed major new deals yesterday with a domestic weapons manufacturer in hopes of achieving independence in producing the heavy munitions needed to continue its bombing campaigns in Gaza, Syria, and Lebanon. The defense ministry announced it signed two deals worth $275 million American dollars with Israel-based Elbit Systems to supply the military with thousands of heavy bombs and establish a new facility to manufacture raw materials. The ministry said the agreements were crucial for enhancing the IDF's operational endurance and force buildup capabilities and represented a central lesson learned from the war. Under the first agreement, Elbit will supply the Israeli Air Force with thousands of heavy air munitions, reducing Israel's dependence on U.S. weapons shipments to keep waging its wars. Under the second agreement, Elbit will establish a national raw materials plant to produce raw materials that were sourced mainly from abroad before the war. The new facility will feature advanced production lines for energetic materials that Israel's defense industry uses, the ministry said, in an effort to strengthen domestic manufacturing independence and reduce reliance on imported raw materials. Defense Ministry Director General Eyal Zamir said the deals were laying the foundations for expanding manufacturing independence in two critical areas for the IDF's operational sustainability: a domestic production of heavy air munitions and establishing a national raw materials plant. Both agreements will ensure sovereign capability in producing bombs and munitions of all types, Zamir stated. We initiated this historic move before the war, but accelerated it during it. Under both agreements, initial capabilities will soon gradually expand until we achieve full independence in both areas, he added. This is a central lesson from the war that will enable the IDF to continue operating powerfully in all theaters. The Defense Ministry announced in August that Washington has sent over 50,000 tons of armaments and military equipment to Israel since its war on Gaza began in 2023. The military reports that the Israeli Air Force has carried out airstrikes using over 83,000 munitions in Gaza, Lebanon, and Syria. 83,000. Gaza's health ministry estimates U.S. and Israeli bombs have killed over 45,000 Palestinians. Because Israel has used the bombs and equipment to carry out genocide against Palestinians in Gaza, segments of the U.S. public have strongly criticized Joe Biden and Secretary of State Anthony Blinken for providing them. Many also withdrew their support for Vice President Kamala Harris in the U.S. presidential election against Donald Trump because of it. That's right. Some people are not big fans of war, so so they're kind of like we're gonna 86 that. So the definition of genocide really depends on how it benefits you as a country. As the U.S. declares genocide in Sudan, but refuses to acknowledge genocide in Gaza. Funny how that works. Right. Okay. So this is from Common Dreams, Julia Conley. Thank you, Julia. While welcoming the U.S. recognition that paramilitaries in Sudan have committed genocidal acts during the country's devastating civil war since 2023, human rights advocates on Tuesday said the declaration underscored the Biden administration's refusal to acknowledge what experts said is also clearly taking place in Gaza at the hands of the U.S.-backed Israel Defense Forces. Those IDF forces, both the mass killing of civilians in Sudan and Palestinians in Gaza should be recognized and stopped, said Kenneth Roth, former executive director of Human Rights Watch. Biden administration officials reportedly hesitated to move forward with the declaration that the Rapid Support Forces, the RSF, which is fighting Sudan's military in a bloody civil war, is committing genocide, saying it could intensify criticism of continued U.S. support for Israel. But U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken signed off on the declaration on Monday, saying the RSF's acts of genocide include systemic violence against the Masalit, a non-Arab ethnic group, between April and November 2023 in the western region of Darfur. Humanitarian workers reported that they counted 2,000 bodies in a single day during that attack, while the UN estimated as many as 15,000 people were killed in one city. Hundreds of thousands of Masalit people have fled to overcrowded camps in neighboring Chad. The RSF, said Blinken on Tuesday, has targeted fleeing civilians, murdered innocent people escaping conflict, and prevented remaining civilians from accessing life-saving supplies. That sounds familiar. The paramilitary group has also blocked aid from getting to some areas, contributing to what the Integrated Food Security Phase classification, IPC, identified as famine in at least 5 districts in Sudan last month. Palestine-based journalist Mohammed Shahada demanded to know how the Biden administration could determine genocide is taking place in Sudan, while repeatedly denying the same in Gaza, even as the International Court of Justice has found Israel placed at risk Palestinians' right to be protected from genocide, and numerous human rights groups have accused Israel of acts of genocide. Literally every single one of the crimes you cite to conclude a genocide is happening in Sudan are all being committed by Israel in Gaza, the very genocide you have been proudly funding, arming, and covering up, Shahada said. More than 45,000 Palestinians have been killed there, bombarding the enclave with hospitals, schools, refugee camps, and residential buildings among the places targeted. Majority of those killed have been women and children, according to the UN. Even as Israel and the U.S., the largest international funder of the IDF, have insisted they are targeting Hamas fighters. Everything's Hamas. Israel's near total blockade on aid has also pushed parts of the enclave into famine, according to experts. And UNRWA has been chased out, too. Blinken finds genocide in Sudan, but not in Gaza, says Mark Seddon, director of the Center for United Nations Studies. Really, you can't make this crap up. Along with the State Department's determination, the U.S. Treasury Department announced Tuesday that it was sanctioning RSF leader General Mohammed Hamdan and 7 companies in the United Arab Emirates, the main international funder of the paramilitary group. Roth pointed out that while private companies in the UAE were sanctioned, the U.S. did not name the government of the Middle Eastern country. Last January, U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar led a push to block a U.S. sale of $85 million in military equipment to the UAE, warning the country had been violating the UN arms embargo in Darfur to support the RSF. Good to see the U.S. officially determined that the brutal RSF militia is committing genocide in Sudan, said journalist Nicholas Kristof. But accountability is impaired when the U.S. fails to publicly call out the RSF's backer, the UAE, which enables the genocide. And that's why they can't call Israel genocide, because they too are enabling it. And that's what happens when you enable the shit. You can't say, "Oh, that's genocide," because you're helping to enable it. What we got? Couple more here in the old news factory. Is that right? Yes. So in Morocco, BDS warns of Morocco's attempt to criminalize anti-Israeli normalization activism. That was a video game. I have a little trouble with the words today, but we'll get through it. In Morocco, the Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions Movement, otherwise known as BDS, has raised alarms over trials targeting pro-Palestine activists, accusing Rabat, I guess that's the capital of Morocco, of attempting to criminalize solidarity with Palestine or actions against normalization with Israel. We are at a dangerous turning point in the path of rights and freedoms in Morocco, where solidarity with the Palestinian cause is being criminalized, said Samaya Boubdallah. Is that Boubdallah, really? A member of BDS Morocco during a press conference on Monday. Last December, a Moroccan court sentenced Ismail Ghazawi, I think that's Lagazawi, an activist with BDS Morocco, to 1 year in prison for calling for a blockade of the U.S. Embassy over its support for Israel. He was charged with incitement to commit crimes and misdemeanors using electronic means. Ghazawi was detained on November 19th last year in Casablanca, just days after calling on Tangier port workers and the public to block 2 Maersk cargo ships suspected of transporting military equipment to Israel. In October, the agricultural engineer also advocated for a blockade of the U.S. Embassy during a protest in Casablanca, accusing Washington of sponsoring Israel's genocide in Gaza. When you raise your child to love Palestine, you don't expect the state to punish them for it, Ghazi's mother said tearfully as she described the difficult conditions he faces in jail. In coordination with Morocco's Association of Human Rights, BDS Morocco held a press conference on Monday to highlight Ghazi's case, alongside those of more than 10 other anti-normalization activists who have faced court proceedings since the start of the Gaza war. Last December, a Moroccan court sentenced 13 pro-Palestine activists to 6 months of suspended prison time for participating in unauthorized protests targeting Carrefour stores, a French retailer reportedly maintaining partnerships with Israeli companies operating in illegal settlements. Recently, the Carrefour store in Youssoufia City filed a complaint against activist Mohammed Al-Kashkash after he called on residents to boycott Carrefour for its involvement in war crimes, said BDS Morocco. Al-Kashkash is set to appear in court on January 20th. The New Arab contacted Carrefour Morocco for comment but received no response. In April 2024, Abdul Rahman Zankad was sentenced to 5 years in prison after posting on Facebook about Israel's war on Gaza and criticizing Morocco's decision to normalize ties with Tel Aviv. He was convicted of insulting a constitutional institution and incitement. In November 2023, activist Saeed Boukiod was sentenced to 3 years in prison for Facebook posts that criticized the monarchy and denounced normalization. Rabat and Tel Aviv normalized ties in December 2020 under U.S. auspices. Local pro-Palestine groups have accused the Moroccan government of using unprecedented measures to suppress dissent to protect its normalization agreement with Israel. While Rabat has refrained from addressing the arrest, former Prime Minister Saad Eddin El Othmani, who signed the normalization agreement, claimed that there are few arrests compared to the number of protests. Pro-Palestine protests in the country have intensified since Israel's war on Gaza began, with activists urging the revocation of Morocco's normalization agreement with Israel. Since 2023, Moroccans have staged weekly protests across the country, demanding that Rabat halt normalization. Although Morocco has generally allowed public protests against Israel, authorities have on several occasions banned demonstrations near the French and U.S. embassies and used force to disperse protests outside Carrefour stores, according to pro-Palestinian groups. On New Year's Eve, anti-normalization protesters counted down to midnight, chanting 2025 and we are still resilient. That doesn't rhyme. Pro-Palestine groups have vowed to continue pressing Rabat this year to revoke its agreements with Tel Aviv. We won't give up until they close the Office of Shame, the Israeli liaison office in Rabat, and end all agreements with the Zionist entity, said Hicham Adi, a member of the Moroccan movement of Nosra, an Islamist pro-Palestine group. Yes. So, and Morocco's kind of been like one of those countries that's just been like, they refuse to arrest any of the war criminals, that kind of thing. So it's not surprising that they're doing that with the BDS movement. Finally, in news, maybe good news for Indonesia and for other monetary systems around the country, around the world, particularly BRICS. As Indonesia joins BRICS, vows to strengthen global South cooperation. Indonesia announced yesterday its acceptance into the BRICS bloc of emerging economies, vowing to strengthen cooperation with countries of the global South. Initially comprising Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, that was your BRICS, more like BRICSA, if you want to be technical about it. The group expanded last year with the accession of Egypt, Iran, Ethiopia, and the UAE. Morphing into the most powerful geopolitical forum outside of the Western world, BRICS now accounts for about 48% of the world's population and more than 37% of the global economy. Roliansa Somarat, spokesperson for Indonesia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, said that Indonesia is committed to contributing to the agendas discussed by BRICS, which include economic resilience, tech cooperation, and public health. BRICS is an important platform for Indonesia to strengthen South-South cooperation and to ensure that the voices and aspirations of global South countries will be represented in the global decision-making process, he said. Indonesia's accession had been approved by BRICS leaders in August 2023, but the world's fourth most populous country opted to formally join the bloc after the formation of the newly elected government following last year's elections. Its accession was welcomed by the government of Brazil, which holds the group's rotating presidency in 2025. As the largest economy and most populous nation in Southeast Asia, Indonesia shares with other BRICS members the support for the reform of the global governance institutions and contributes significantly to the deepening of global South cooperation, Brazil's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said in a statement. Brazil holds the BRICS presidency this year under the theme Enhancing Global South Cooperation for a More Inclusive and Sustainable Governance, which is a lot better than our prom 1986 prom theme Afternoon Delight, which was more about having sex in the afternoon than the prom. I don't really know what that was. I think it was a song. And we'll hold the annual Leaders Summit in Rio de Janeiro in July. Indonesia's interest in joining BRICS is likely a part of the government's drive to attract more foreign investment. That's according to Muhammad Wafa Karisma, researcher at the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Jakarta. The move is to do with seeking opportunities to expand sources of investment from a group of countries that do not force Indonesia to choose sides or leave traditional partnerships with the West, Charisma told Arab News. However, this outcome is not guaranteed, he said. The investment patterns of BRICS countries have not shown a clear tendency to prioritize or politically favor fellow members. There is no assurance that Indonesia's investments will increase significantly. Joining BRICS may also be a way for Indonesia to showcase the look of a new global order, Charisma added. Symbolically, it is a signal from a country like Indonesia, which has benefited from the West-led order all this time, but wants to integrate even more into the global order, that it is seeking alternatives should the West-led orders become less friendly to developing countries, also known as don't come into our countries and destroy us. Denver Attaway, good to see you. Afternoon Delight, all about afternoon sex while naked lunch has nothing to do with eating lunch naked. That's true. The naked lunch has nothing to do with nude consuming of foods. At least I don't think it is. Today is an auspicious, or at least yesterday I think was an auspicious anniversary in France. You may remember the Charlie Hebdo massacre 10 years ago this week.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media publish these things they are true without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media use those platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
So Charlie Hebdo vaunts its indestructibility 10 years after massacre. The Kouachi brothers, who had pledged allegiance to Al-Qaeda, attacked Charlie Hebdo on January 7th, 2015, killing 8 staff members, including cartoonists Kabu, Charb, Henri Tignius, and Walensky. The satirical weekly had since 2006 riled Islamists with caricatures of the Prophet Muhammad. Despite the trauma, the magazine continues to take swipes not just at Islam, but Christianity, Judaism, and any other institutionalized belief system, in line with its defense of freedom of expression and the French form of secularism known as laicite. The front cover of its 10th anniversary edition shows a Charlie Hebdo reader sitting on a rifle under the headline, Indestructible. The issue contains a selection of caricatures of God submitted through a global competition launched in November 2024. There's the gun up the person's tuchus. Look, it's got like a little Inception thing. It goes, there's the cover here, and there's the cover in there, and there's the cover. The most interesting are the ones without captions because the whole world understands with no need for translation, Biard told RFI. It's very difficult to pull off that kind of drawing, but when you succeed, it's unparalleled. Did I miss something? Okay. One cartoon shows Christ on the cross taking a selfie. Another depicts a cartoonist wondering whether it's acceptable to draw a guy who draws a guy who draws Muhammad. God is an idea like any other, no less or more respectable than any other. Argues Baird. Like all ideas, we have the right to laugh about it, make fun of it, contest it, to make fun of what it embodies. Of those who claim to speak in its name or in their name because there are thousands of deities around the world. Biard is speaking to RFI in the offices of Charlie Hebdo's press liaison. The location of its newsroom remains a closely guarded secret due to ongoing death threats. Biard said many people on social media face similar harassment. Criticism of Charlie Hebdo comes from various quarters, not just those offended by its religious satire. A recent cover featuring rape victim Giselle Pellicotte also sparked backlash. Veteran cartoonist Riss recently expressed feelings of isolation, saying that criticism of Charlie Hebdo often outweighs support. Bjard echoed the sentiment, saying he wished for more support or simply some support instead of continuing to put targets on our backs. But he takes comfort from subscribers, loyal readers, people who write in every week, most of whom say how important Charlie is to them, which is nice to hear. The paper, founded in 1970, counts 30,000 subscribers and sells around 50,000 copies per week. A survey by the Fondation Jean Jaurès in June 2024 found that 76% of French people believe freedom of expression is a fundamental right, with the freedom to caricature included. However, Charlie Hebdo finds itself in a smaller and smaller playing field as newspapers grow shy of satirical cartooning. The New York Times has stopped, and last week the Washington Post killed a cartoon featuring its billionaire owner Jeff Bezos kneeling before a statue of President-elect Donald Trump. Its creator, Ann Tilney, resigned as a result. We told you about that on Monday. Press drawing, satire, caricature causes you hassle, Bjard concedes. So clearly the New York Times editorial board prefers to have peace and tranquility. This is awkward, though, when you claim to defend democracy and freedom of expression in a country that will, I think, need it over the next 4 years. Cartoons remain an essential journalistic tool, Bjard argues. They show society what we cannot or do not want to see. The boundaries of satire, he says, are defined by France's 1881 law on freedom of the press, which addresses defamation, racism, and anti-Semitism. It's quite clear and applies to all citizens, Bjard adds. In addition, everyone has their own limits. There are subjects I wouldn't treat. For example, I won't talk about someone's private life if they haven't themselves made it public, or if it doesn't concern society at large. He considers that Charlie Hebdo's gritty and sometimes nasty humor still has its place. There is no reason to stop, and we're not the only ones using this type of humor, he says. Reflecting on the loss of colleagues in the 2015 attacks, including psychoanalyst Elsa Kayat, sub-editor Mustafa Ora, and economist Bernard Maris, Bjard says, they're still with us, we carry them in us, and they're always present in the pages of the newspaper. With an independent business model, Charlie Hebdo operates without external shareholders or advertising. It lives thanks to its readership. That's quite rare, very rare, in fact, Bjard says. The editorial team of between 30 and 40 people collaborates with a host of young cartoonists and journalists. The publication's future, he says, is increasingly in their hands. The future of Charlie isn't Paris, it isn't me, it's them. While the January 7th anniversary is a fundamental date in the newspaper's history, the younger generation are the ones who also make the Charlie Hebdo of 10 years on. That's what we're aiming for, that's what we're thinking about, and I hope that's where we're heading. And I remember when their offices were attacked, and people were talking about that, talking about the freedom to to create these caricatures of Muhammad. And it's like, well, there's the freedom to do it, and then, but are you free from the consequences of it? And obviously murder is a consequence of it. It's not a justifiable one, but it is a consequence of it. So more and more people are starting to defy these religious decrees that go after these people. And it is ridiculous too. All right. It's like, okay, if you decide in your religion you shouldn't draw a picture of the person, the prophet or whatever, that's fine. But if somebody else does it, and you go after them, and that's where the bounds of religion and common sense kind of gets in there too. So the French, it's wild. It's like their protesters are great, but their government, just like everybody else, just sucks. French police arrest 3 Algerians in crackdown on social media influencers. You know, the tough crimes. These are the tough crimes. A police dragnet in France has swept up 3 Algerian men described by authorities as social media influencers accused of posting videos inciting violence against a backdrop of soured relations between Paris and its former colony in North Africa. Imad Ould Brahim, a 31-year-old video blogger known as Imad Tintin, reportedly urged his followers to burn alive, kill, and rape in France and was taken into custody on Monday ahead of a trial set for early March. Excuse me. On Friday, Brahim was arrested outside the southeastern city of Grenoble after publishing a video urging followers to burn alive, kill, and rape on French territory. On Monday, he appeared in court on charges of direct incitement of an act of terrorism. He requested and obtained a delay for his trial to prepare his defense. But he was placed in custody pending the trial, which is set to begin on March 5th, with the presiding judge citing risks of pressure on witnesses or his flight abroad. During the hearing, Brahim denied any terrorist intent and contested the editing and translation of the videos. His lawyer, Alexandre Rouvière, who argued for his client to be kept out of jail but under judicial supervision, asked for further information. Brahim entered France in December 2021 and applied for a residence permit in August 2023 after marrying a French woman. However, his application was refused and is subject to an expulsion order. 2 other Algerians suspected of inciting violence in videos were also detained in France. The first Algerian influencer arrested, 25-year-old Youssef A., known on social media as Zazou Youssef, I'm not calling him that, who reportedly had more than 400,000 followers on TikTok before his account was closed down, was detained Friday in the western city of Brest over a video in which he called for attacks in France and violence in Algeria. He will stand trial on February 24th on a charge of publicly advocating an act of terrorism. French Interior Minister Bruno Retailleau announced the latest arrest Sunday evening, saying the influencer had called on followers to carry out attacks in France. He also announced the arrest of another Algerian, also describing him as an influencer, on Friday night. The minister said in a post that he, too, will have to answer to the courts for vile comments made on TikTok. On Sunday, an Algerian influencer nicknamed Doulem was detained in the southern city of Montpellier over violent comments targeting an Algerian activist opposed to the government in Algiers. The Montpellier public prosecutor said Monday that he would not release any information until the direction of the case had been decided. It was not immediately clear whether all arrested were Algerian citizens living in France. The arrests in the Alpine city of Grenoble, Montpellier in South France, and the port city of Brest, quit saying that, in the Brest in the West, really, come amid renewed turbulence in the often complicated relationship between France and Algeria, which shook off French rule in 1962 after a brutal war. French President Emmanuel Macron angered the authorities in Algiers after renewing French support for Moroccan sovereignty over the disputed territory of Western Sahara. A shift last July in France's decades-old position on the disputed Western Sahara region of northern Africa angered Algeria and prompted the withdrawal of its ambassador in Paris. The French government, meanwhile, has denounced Algeria's detention of French-Algerian writer Boulem Sansal, who has been detained since November. The 75-year-old author is an outspoken critic of the Algerian government. The French government hasn't linked the tensions with Algiers to the 3 arrests. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot said Sunday that France wants the best relations with Algeria, but he said Paris has doubts about the Algerian government's commitment to deals agreed in 2022 that were seen as important steps towards mending their relationship. Yeah. So, But you're going to see more of that kind of stuff too, of people getting arrested for their posts on social media. And not so much the posts, but what the context of the posts are. It could be something very benign. But then again, then it's up for interpretation by the government. Meanwhile, in Germany, Germany cuts off funding to 2 Israel human rights organizations over criticism of Israeli crimes in Gaza. Every time I see him, I want to draw a monocle on his eye and just go, Hogan. Germany's government has cut off funding for 2 Israeli human rights organizations over their criticism of Israel's ongoing offensive on the Gaza Strip and its war crimes in the territory, according to a new report. According to the German public broadcaster Deutsche Welle, Berlin cut funding for the organizations Zatrat and New Profile since Hamas's attacks into Israeli-held territory in 2023, essentially ending their projects and operational capacity by the end of that year. Zatrat itself lost almost a quarter of its budget, approximately $103,000, due to the funding cut, according to its director, Rachel Bittari, who stated that the move definitely hurts us but will not stop us from continuing our work. She revealed that she had held discussions with German officials prior to the cuts, but that they reiterated the oft-repeated German government position that support for Israel is essential due to apparent historical responsibility, and it would look really, really shitty if Germany did anything bad to Israel because you know that thing back in the 40s. New Profile, a volunteer-based group that supports conscientious objectors of the Israeli military, also revealed that Berlin's decision cost them almost half of their funding, with its treasurer, Sergei Sandler, saying that the timing of this funding cut was designed to cause maximum harm to our work. The revelation of the German government's move to cut funding to such organizations, including 6 Palestinian groups, for the same reasons, over their criticism of Israeli occupation forces' ongoing crimes, comes shortly after Germany's parliament passed a resolution in November last year which effectively linked public donations to a controversial definition of anti-Semitism, which asserts that expressions such as comparing contemporary Israeli policies to those of the Nazis or that claiming Israel's existence is a racist endeavor constitute anti-Semitism. Right? You're an anti-Semite if you say anything bad about baby Jesus' hometown. Come on now, what's wrong with you? Zazoo. So, Al Jazeera has been closed in the West Bank, and it will continue to be that way as Israel extends the closure of the office. Israeli authorities have renewed a closure order on Al Jazeera's office in the occupied West Bank days after the Palestinian authorities suspended the network's broadcast for 4 months. Israeli soldiers posted an extension order on the entrance of the building housing Al Jazeera's offices in central Ramallah, a city in the occupied West Bank under Palestinian Authority control. On Tuesday morning, the document renews the closure starting on December 22nd for 45 days. According to Al Jazeera's Arabic channel, the commander of the Israeli army in the occupied West Bank, Avi Balut, said that the order was justified because the office was being used for incitement and support for acts of terrorism. Yeah, so last September, Israeli forces raided Al Jazeera's Ramallah office and issued an initial 45-day closure order. Staff were instructed to leave the premises and take their personal belongings. Later, Israel's government announced it was also revoking the press credentials of Al Jazeera journalists in the country. The move followed a decision in May to ban Al Jazeera from broadcasting from Israel. The network's offices were also closed for 45 days, an order that has been extended several times. So, yeah, it's 45 days, 45 days, 45 days, and that's how they're just going to keep them closed. Prime Minister of Shithead Benjamin Netanyahu's government has long been at odds with Al Jazeera since the start of Israel's war on Gaza last October. The The network has faced repeated attempts to silence its reporting through arrests, imprisonment, and attacks on its journalists. Al Jazeera has condemned and denounced Israel's orders on its office in Ramallah. In a statement in September, the network said the raid on the office and seizure of our equipment is not only an attack on Al Jazeera, but an affront to press freedom and the very principles of journalism. These oppressive measures are clearly intended to prevent the world from witnessing the reality of the situation in the occupied territories and the ongoing war on Gaza and the devastating impact on innocent civilians. The PA has also suspended all Al Jazeera broadcasts from the occupied West Bank and placed restrictions on anyone working for the network. It says on grounds that the channel violates Palestinian laws and that Al Jazeera is tampering with and interfering in Palestinian internal affairs. Al Jazeera has slammed a decision, branding it a move in the line with the Israeli occupation's actions against its staff. Yes, so the PA basically acting like Israel's bitch in that regard. So, meanwhile, Meta. You might have heard of this. Social media giant Meta scraps fact-checking for community notes. Ooh, interesting. Because that's what the tweeters have, the community notes. The social media giant Meta, which owns Instagram and Facebook, has announced the end of its third-party fact-checking program in the United States, saying that it will encourage more speech on its platform. Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. The move, revealed on Tuesday, comes as tech executives embrace incoming U.S. President Donald Trump, whose right-wing supporters have long decried online content moderation as a tool of censorship. Instead of third-party fact-checkers, Meta said it will rely on community notes, similar to those used on the tweeters. Their contributors draft factual corrections to posts that become visible only after being endorsed by other contributors with different points of view. Meta's Chief Global Affairs Officer Joel Kaplan said the previous fact-checking initiative, launched in 2016, aimed for independent experts to provide more accurate information about viral hoaxes, but he added that's not the way things played out. You think? Over time, we ended up with too much content being fact-checked that people would understand to be legitimate political speech and debate, Kaplan said in a statement. Our system then attached real consequences in the form of intrusive labels and reduced distribution. A program intended to inform too often became a tool to censor. Meta, which donated $1 million to Trump's inauguration fund last month, also announced it would remove restrictions on controversial political subjects, including immigration and gender identity. It's not right that things can be said on TV or the floor of Congress, but not on our platforms, Kaplan said, adding that the changes will take a few weeks to implement. In a separate video message, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg said the company will move its content moderation team from liberal California to Republican-leaning Texas. I think that will help us build trust to do this work in places where there is less concern about the bias of our team, Zuckerberg said in a video message. Yeah, but you're still going to have some bias. It's Texas bias. He added that the company will ease its moderation filters and raise the bar for taking down posts over possible policy violations. Maybe I get my old account back for spreading something about communism. Probably not. The reality is that this is a trade-off, Zuckerberg said. It means we're going to catch less bad stuff, but we'll also reduce the number of innocent people's posts and accounts that we accidentally take down. Right. In the wake of the announcement, President-elect Trump praised Zuckerberg during a press conference at his Mar-a-Lago resort. I think they've come a long way. The man was very impressive. When a reporter asked if the decision resulted from threats Trump had made to social media companies in the past, President-elect offered a short response, probably. Much of the debate over social media content moderation in the U.S. revolves around domestic topics, COVID-19, and election interference. Palestinian rights supporters have long accused Meta of censoring their posts. In 2023, Human Rights Watch released a report accusing Meta of silencing voices in support of Palestine and Palestinian human rights. Yeah, we'll see how this new this new regime works. The group said it documented more than 1,000 takedowns of posts that were unduly suppressed on Meta platforms between October and November of that year. Finally, I don't know. This is from this is kind of interesting stuff. So from Responsible Statecraft, first of its kind tracker cracks open DC's think tank funding. So part of the so-called Washington swamp is the opacity of the funding going to powerful think tanks that provide policy-making expertise to Capitol Hill, to White House staff, and to agencies including the Pentagon and State Department. It's no secret that the think tanks that have an outsized influence on foreign policy and national security affairs receive grants from the government to conduct studies and research to the tune of millions of dollars a year. Meanwhile, these organizations get tons of funding from the military contractors who stand to benefit from those reports and research in support of American war policy. Foreign governments, too, are plowing millions into think tanks in hopes to influence the direction of policy their way. Not only do think tanks generate a lot of paper, but their experts write op-eds, they testify before Congress, they're called upon by reporters and producers to give their take on policy and world events, like the wars Washington is currently funding with American money and weapons, all over the information landscape. In short, they help shape perception and manufacture consent. Oftentimes, whether in the hearing room or in the media, these experts' connections to the government, industry, or foreign backers is never disclosed. Doesn't the American public have a right to know who is paying for these experts? A new think tank funding tracker built by the Democratizing Foreign Policy program at the Quincy Institute is for the first time putting that information at your fingertips. Folks outside the Beltway aren't aware how many conflicts of interest there are in the foreign policy expert they are hearing from, says Program Director Ben Freeman, who co-wrote an accompanying report to the tracker's release. The American public has the right to know who is funding the experts they are seeing on TV, who they are hearing on the radio. Okay, so... all right. Is the tracker complete? Unfortunately not, because not every think tank discloses its donors in annual reports. This is true for the American Enterprise Institute, which has a robust foreign policy and national security portfolio and has pursued a neoconservative American primacist worldview for decades. In fact, over 1/3 of the top foreign policy think tanks in the U.S. publicly disclose little or no information about their funding. The database also provides rankings for transparency. Nick Cleveland Stout, junior researcher at the Democratizing Foreign Policy program, said this is set up to be a resource for journalists and the public alike. He also notes that almost all of the top foreign policy think tanks are reliant on funding from defense companies and foreign governments, which can lead to sympathetic policy recommendations and even outright censorship in some cases. It's not illegal, but it is harmful if there is no transparency. Let the people decide. It should be common practice for a journalist to mention a relevant conflict of interest when quoting a think tanker, or for a policymaker to know who is funding an expert witness, said Cleveland Stout. With the creation of this database, they can go to our website and track down that information, or if our website notes that the think tank does not disclose any funding information, that might warrant raising some red flags. Yeah. So, yeah. And that was the thing. You had, like, in the early days of CNN, you had to have time to, you had to fill time, and you filled time with these experts. Around this time, you had the Iraq War, the Gulf War when we went into Kuwait, and they were broadcasting that 24 hours a day. So who were they bringing on? They were bringing on military experts, these old generals. They're saying, oh, yeah, well, see, what's going to happen here is they're going to probably do this and probably do that. And And it's the same thing with these think tanks. You know, it's like, who's funding these think tanks that come on these news channels, and they come into these corporations and come into these places and influence policy? Who's paying them? It's a good idea to find out. I hope that once we get that tracker up and running, we'll be sure to spread that along. So I'll be definitely keeping an eye on that. Finally today, folks, hey, Teresa, good to see you. Happy Wednesday to you. You know, folks, we try to bring you the most serious news possible here because you deserve it. You need to know what the mainstream media, what legacy media is not telling you. And I want to be here for that because, you know, that's my job, I feel. And there's nothing more serious to me than a tutu wearing spider monkey that was found wandering loose in Missouri. That's, you know, I saw it. I said, spider monkey, you had me in spider monkey. And then you're going to put some Cool Whip on the top that says tutu wearing. Sorry. There's the offender. Apparently the little pink tutu there. That's nice. Some good stuff. Sheriff's deputies in Missouri came to the rescue of a spider monkey wearing a pink tutu near a busy highway. You know, girls got to work. Come on. The Jefferson County Sheriff's Office said on social media that deputies responded to the area of highways 21 and M, the M apparently standing for monkey, on reports of a subject monkeying around. It's the cops, y'all, using your hard-earned money. They arrived to find a spider monkey dressed in what appeared to be a tutu. After careful negotiations and some coaxing, deputies were able to get close enough to go hands-on. Hey, what the hell? What the hell's wrong with you? With the subject and bring this banana situation under control without incident. The Post said. Public Safety Information Coordinator Grant Bissell said the monkey actually approached one of the deputies, who is a canine handler. The monkey actually kind of came up and tugged on his pant leg, and so he didn't really know what to do. He squatted down, was trying to offer some sort of safety, and he said the monkey reached out and grabbed his hands, and he said, okay, I guess we'll just stand here together until we figure out what to do, Bissell told KTVI-TV. The monkey was found to have fled from a nearby home. Primate was safely returned to its caretaker. We like to monkey around on this show, apparently. So there you go. There's your weekly monkey update from Missouri. The last one we had a spider monkey loose in Texas. I wonder if that's the same one. And maybe caught a train or something up to Missouri. Who knows? I don't know. Well, enough of that silliness. So, I can't remember. Willie said no show tonight, but I think our buddy Kevin's doing Black Bear News at 2 p.m. Eastern today. And, of course, Around the World, D and Friends tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. But tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, I will have Angie Moon. You may have seen her on the Willie Bragg Show. Talking about rock and roll and true crime. So that's going to be tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. We're going to talk about her book, Crime of the Century, where she talks about some of these rockers and some of the crimes committed and stuff. Good stuff. It was very intriguing to hear her and Willie talking about those kind of things. So I want to pick her brain more about the rock and roll kind of stuff too. Since I'm an old rock DJ, I gotta pick her brains about the rock. Denver says, I found an article about cyborg cockroach factories yesterday. I can now rest assured that necessity has been attended to. Cyborg cockroaches? All right. Yeah, so anyway, that's going on tonight. Not the cyborg cockroaches, but Angie Moon's going to be on tonight. So that's going to be fun. It'll be an hour of good times. Come on out for that. We should have fun. And then I guess we will be back here with this show on Friday morning, the 10th. So, programming note, next week, a week from today, I'm going to be on the Willie Bragg show, apparently, allegedly. So that's going to be on January 15th, the old birthday. So, I'm going to celebrate my birthday at Willie's place. So it'll be fun. We'll talk about Nipple Mountain and all that good stuff. So I don't know. It's his show. I don't know what the fuck we'll talk about, actually. Anywho, guys and gals and all our other pals, appreciate you. Love each and every one of you. If you're new to this bullshit, please like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate it. What's up? Kill your egregores. Happy hump day to you too. If you could share out the links for the donations too. If you want to donate, that's fine. We got Patreon. You want to do $1 a month, but we got the other stuff too, like Venmo and all the other stuff. I have Zelle too, if you're into that kind of thing. So if not, if you could share out the links, that would help just as much. So, all right, folks, stay warm if you're cold, and stay cold if you're warm-ish or too warm. 25 degrees here in Chicago. I'm about to say, what? No, dear, it's the 15th. A week from today is the 15th. Me and MLK, we're on the same day. Not on the national holiday. We don't share that. But we do share the OG birthday, so. Anyway, are you high, Kate? I just told you twice. It's Wednesday. Jesus. Kate, they got these things called calendars, right? If you look on the calendar, you'll see these numbers and little letters above them that make out words to tell you what the day they are. So anyway, I'm going to get out of here before Kate kicks my ass. I'll see y'all this evening, probably in about 5 hours. So be good, for goodness sake. Whoa, somebody's coming. Woo!
This is City Alpha 5. Woo!